Okay, my dudes, we are live, and you know exactly what we're doing here. We are live streaming. I don't even know how many drafts we're going to do tonight. I got going a little earlier than usual. Hopefully, we can try to get 4 streams in here. Hopefully, we can try to get 4 drafts because I'm going to be honest. Y'all know usually I'm getting into about like 5, 6, 7 drafts a day. Today, I only got in 2. So today, I've only done 2 real money fantasy football drafts. So we have to bump that number up. I have a ton of energy for tonight. So let's get this notification sent out here. Let me allow people to get into this chat. Then we will get this draft going. And yeah, guys, I'm excited for tonight. I am very excited. So we're going to get the first link to our first draft sent out to the Patreon channel. Let me send that out right now. Also, let me send out a notification on Discord. And we should be able to get this going. Okay, we just posted that on Patreon. So I'm sure that we are going to get a lot of people coming out right away. Okay, so we just sent that out. Let's go. And also, if you're joining from Patreon, usually you have some more time than what it is in the YouTube chat. Usually, like you see that it's going a little slower. I mean, it's going to fill relatively quickly, but it's not like the YouTube chat. Okay, so we are filled. Let's get this first draft going, my dudes. Let's get the 101. Give us the 101. Hey, we get the 103. We're going to get the 103. I am perfectly fine with this. I'm very happy with this, to be honest. Now, I have a confession that I need to make. Earlier today, I drafted from the 103, and it was very embarrassing. Y'all know that I am drafting Davante Adams at the 103 in almost all my drafts. Like, Davante Adams, in my opinion, is going to be a clear selection once you get past the Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook, where CMC, Dalvin Cook, those are the guys in the very top tier. I mean, the very, very top tier of fantasy drafts where they have the elite ceiling and also they have no red flags. Where with Davante Adams, this is someone that we know has access to that same elite ceiling. We've talked about it at length, and he has no red flags. He has a very high floor where all the other running backs, the player like a Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, you can find a red flag, at least one with every single one of those players. So essentially, I'm always locking in Davante Adams, and I was playing in a public league earlier today. And keep in mind, this is a real money draft. This isn't a mock draft or anything. So I need to be taking it seriously. But I was recording podcasts for Patreon as we did it. So I'm mainly focusing in on what we're actually doing on Patreon rather than the draft. So here we're going to take Davante Adams at the 103 like we expected. But anyway, I had queued Davante Adams as soon as I saw that we got the 103 because I went, okay, well, CMC, Dalvin Cook are going off. So let's queue Davante Adams. And then I can come back around in the second round after we get done with this podcast. Well, after queuing Davante Adams, I didn't notice that the second team actually drafted Ezekiel Elliott, and we could have had Dalvin Cook at the 103. So that is, of course, extremely embarrassing. But now that we have a Davante Adams option, I mean, we're taking Adams. Yes, we should have gone with Dalvin Cook over him in the other draft, but we weren't live streaming that one, so wasn't that big of a deal. And Andrew says, what are Alvin Kamara's red flags? So the clear red flags that you actually have with an Alvin Kamara are going to be Taysom Hill in the usage that Alvin Kamara had in the receiving game when Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback for New Orleans. We have seen this time and time again with the quarterbacks that are not necessarily going to be looking to go through their progressions, and instead they're going to be very quick to just tuck it and run. Where Taysom Hill, while yes, he can be a very good quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, the problem is what makes Alvin Kamara that elite fantasy asset is actually going to be the usage in the receiving game and how he can average 7.5 targets a game, and very, very few running backs can get to that mark. Now, yes, a guy like Saquon Barkley can. Love Saquon Barkley. But regardless, with a Taysom Hill, you actually see the targets per game drastically go down. And another problem that we see, a very similar issue in Buffalo, is with those big-bodied rushing quarterbacks. We saw this with Cam Newton back in Carolina as well. They're going to vulture so many rushing touchdowns at the goal line away from those running backs as well. So if Taysom Hill does get into start for the New Orleans Saints, that's going to be a massive red flag for an Alvin Kamara. Now, I will say Alvin Kamara is my 104. I would take him over Tyreek Hill just because with the Tyreek Hill, we haven't had his season where he's accessed that same level ceiling of a Davante Adams. But I don't want to talk about Adams that much before. I'll say if you're new to this channel, this is the first time you're watching a video, I highly recommend you watching an in-depth breakdown that we have done of Davante Adams. You can just find really so many videos about it. Essentially, the thesis is Davante Adams last year put up the best receiver season of all time. If you look at it on a per game basis when he was healthy, better than 2007 Randy Moss. The situation hasn't changed at all. All in on Davante Adams. And let's send out a link if anybody wants to go through and get in our next mock draft. And we are about to pass 50 likes on this live stream already, and we have been live for maybe about 30 seconds. Thank you, everybody going down there and dropping that like. And honestly, we pulled something off in the draft that we were doing earlier today from the 103 that I may want to try again. It's going to be a little harder since we're on the stream. Darren Waller goes to the 208. So since this isn't a tournament and instead this is only a 12-man league, I think that we probably don't go and we don't necessarily just try to bully people around with the receiver position. So let's see where Justin decides to take his pick. He goes with the Najee Harris. So here it's going to be between an A.J. Brown and a Clyde Edwards-Helaire for me. I think that we're actually going to end up going with an A.J. Brown here. This is what we did in the last draft. Now, with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he is very intriguing, especially when we're looking at a team that we started with the Davante Adams. You know what? Since this isn't a tournament structure and this is only a 12-man league, I think it's a little more important to actually have the higher floor. So we're going to go with a Clyde Edwards-Helaire and start this team off a little balanced. So essentially the question is, would we prefer the combination of Davante Adams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire or A.J. Brown and an Alvin Kamara? And I know it sounds very, very crazy, but I am so high on Davante Adams. I actually prefer the combination of a Davante Adams and a CEH. I know it sounds crazy. I know very few people are going to agree with me, and I am completely fine with that. I'm not even going to try to change your mind. Now, if you have a good reasoning, if you have a good explanation on why you think Davante Adams in the first is a horrendous pick, I'm fine to hear you out on it. Just make sure you leave a comment down below. And now that we are back on the clock, I think we have a clear selection of a George Kittle. So this is going to be a best ball league. So roster construction is going to be very important when we go through and try to have a balanced start. So when we take a George Kittle here, it actually is going to allow us to only have to draft one more tight end in this league. And we're going to have an extra roster spot that we can either devote to either the running back or the receiver position. So we are going to be going with the George Kittle there. Also, when we take Kittle, we have a potential to go and get that stack with the Trey Lance. Y'all know how high I've been on Trey Lance all offseason. So I do like that. It sets up a stack for us. And at the same time, I mean, George Kittle's just good value there. Y'all know how much I love George Kittle. Okay, so now let's go through. Nick says, Swift versus Miles Sanders. Who are you taking? I'm definitely drafting DeAndre Swift over Miles Sanders. I'll say that's not really a decision that you have to make that often because Miles Sanders right now is a 5th round draft pick where DeAndre Swift's a 3rd. So yeah, I mean, we're going Miles Sanders there. You get Miles Sanders in the 5th round. Okay, also, guys, let me know what y'all think of the lighting right now. I switched the lights around, so hopefully they're in my eyes a little less. But let me know if it just looks horrendous, because if it looks horrendous, I can go through and I can change it back ASAP. Okay, let me go and let me switch this over to the YouTube live feature chat. That way I can instead turn this chat to subscriber only. That way when we get some more people out here, I can actually keep up with the chat and I can make sure that we're staying on top of all the messages. And we're gonna try to get 4 drafts going tonight. I'm gonna try my best to make sure that we get 4 done, because in the last stream we did have to end through a draft a little early just because I mean I was dying. I was just so damn tired. Okay, so let's pull this up, turn this to subscribers only. Okay, so Chris Carson. Okay, so San Diego's finest here has a start where he goes 3 running backs in a row. That's going to be something I want to continue to monitor through the draft, how that team actually ends up shaking out. I'll say I really do like the picks of getting an Austin Eckler and a Jonathan Taylor. If I was going to consider any other moves, I would possibly consider Calvin Ridley over a JT, but that would really be the only other pick that I would have considered there. Or maybe going with a receiver in a Cooper Kupp or a Chris Godwin over a Chris Carson. Okay, so now let's go through and Matthew says, are we doing any $5 to $25 drafts tonight? I'll definitely get a $5 draft going for us tonight. We'll at least get one $5 draft going. Okay, so Mahomes at the 404. This is what you really like to see, a team that goes through and gets the stack with a Travis Kelce and a Patrick Mahomes. This is about the earliest that I'm going to consider a Patrick Mahomes is the beginning of the 4th round, and I've said this so many times before, but really the only time I'm considering Mahomes at the beginning of the 4th round over receivers that are going to still be available, like a Julio Jones, a Brandon Ayuk, a Jamar Chase, a T. Higgins. If we're going to consider taking a Patrick Mahomes over those players, I want to make sure that we do have one of Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill, which this team does. So I think that's a perfect pick right there at the 404. John says, how many leagues do you have right now? I am in about 20-something dynasty leagues. I am in about, I want to say 10 or so redraft leagues where you have to submit a starting lineup each and every week. And I'm in about God knows how many of these best ball underdog leagues. I'm in a million underdog leagues. And I've just been having a ton of fun with these underdog drafts lately. Okay, so now at the 410, T. Higgins goes off. I hate seeing T. Higgins go off the draft board. So now that Adam Thielen goes, the teams behind us obviously have both Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. So you know what? I think we get the last wide receiver in a tier. Jamar Chase, I was a lot lower on compared to people a while ago, but now that Jamar Chase is falling behind an Adam Thielen, a T. Higgins, a Brandon Ayuk. I mean, remember when I had Jamar Chase ranked behind Brandon Ayuk and T. Higgins and how many hate messages I would get every single day? Well, now like the times have changed. Now it's kind of consensus to have Jamar Chase after them, and I'm now fine paying this price if he's going to be going off as a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. Okay, so we have Miles Sanders at the 501. Let's see where Senior Skittles goes. He has a Dalvin, Darrell Henderson, A.J. Brown, and C.D. Lamb. Okay, so he goes Travis Etienne. Now that really sucks. So now we're in a spot where I was planning on getting a Travis Etienne in this team, but I think considering we can actually pick up an extra running back later on, do we reach on a player like Josh Jacobs here, or we take another receiver? You know what? I think that we're actually just going to take a Josh Jacobs. I wasn't expecting the running back turn to go like that, but I think now if we end up passing on a Josh Jacobs, we can get kind of caught behind the 8 ball at running back. And y'all know I've said this a million times before. I hated Josh Jacobs. I was like the #1 Josh Jacobs hater when he was going in the 3rd round earlier this offseason. Now that he's fallen to the 5th, I actually like the draft price, and he's one of my most drafted running backs, as crazy as that sounds. I was saying that he was very overrated when he was going ahead of these receivers, more in particular Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp. But now that he is going behind even this tier of guys, I mean, when your decision is either Josh Jacobs or Chase Claypool, it's a lot easier than having to take a Josh Jacobs over a Chris Godwin or a Cooper Kupp. I mean, they're just two completely different tiers at the receiver position. Okay, so now let's go through. And Jayan says, Jacobs went at the 305 in my puppy 3. Okay, so yeah, you'll see that if you're playing on Underdog Fantasy, and we haven't even talked about Underdog Fantasy, the fantastic platform that we're playing on. I'll get to that in 1 second. But in those public leagues, the competition is a lot worse than what you actually have in these private leagues. Now, I'll say it's going to be tougher than what your regular home league is, just because the best players play on Underdog Fantasy, to be completely honest. But that is wild. I mean, seeing Josh Jacobs go to 305, I don't know how many drafts I've done over the past just 2 weeks, honestly, those public leagues. And I don't think I've seen Josh Jacobs go to 305 whatsoever. I don't even think I've seen him go in the 3rd. I've got him in the 6th round a couple times if we're talking about the public drafts. Thomas says, Kittle for the thumbnail. My man, I swear to God, I had that same thought. I had that same thought when we had George Kittle available to us. I was like, hey, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Now, Lamar Jackson at the 507. And before we get any further in, guys, I know that a lot of y'all already know this, but let me talk about Underdog Fantasy really quick and why I think that our partnership that we have with them is fantastic. And that is on Underdog Fantasy, the site that we are drafting currently. If you make a $10 deposit and you use promo code FLOCK, a couple things are going to happen. A, they're going to add $25 into your account for you to go through and for you to play in your own fantasy football drafts. Those could be public leagues. Those could be leagues if you want to come out to the live stream and play with me like all these other people are doing. Or on top of that, you don't even necessarily need to play in one of those regular leagues. You could enter into tournaments where you have a shot at $1 million at the top. If you want to do a $25 buy-in, if you want to do a $5 buy-in like Jayan in the chat's talking about, then you have a chance at $200,000 on top. I definitely recommend trying out a few teams in the $5 buy-in. That way you really get a nice feel of how the draft is going to flow. And obviously, all these drafts are going to make you significantly better for your real fantasy football draft that you are going to be doing with your friends. And what's fantastic is with promo code FLOCK, you're not only getting paid $25 onto your account when you sign up and make that $10 deposit, but you're also getting my 2021 rankings, my 2021 draft guide, my 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, hundreds of pages of information, literally just all to you for making that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK for first-time users. And yeah, we are also doing something that if we get 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, that we are going to be flying people down to Tampa, Florida. Not everybody obviously will do it in a giveaway. For people who use promo code FLOCK, they'll be coming down, going to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me. And at the same time, we'll have a Florida Flock meetup afterwards, vlog the entire thing. It'll be very fun. And to go along with all this, you support the show tremendously, more than you would ever know. So please make sure you're using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Get into some of these drafts. They're incredibly fun. I mean, this is all I do all day. Okay, so now let's pull this back down. So I'm kind of happy that we went with a Josh Jacobs here because now that we have Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, Kareem Hunt all go off the board, I mean, the running back position is going to look very dry. So I'll be completely honest, in those tournament public leagues that you're going to play in, you're going to see receivers go a little bit higher up the draft board. So if we were playing in a league like that, I would have possibly taken an AJ Brown over a Calvin Ridley here. And I would have also possibly taken a Chase Claypool over a Josh Jacobs. But here we have to understand the draft room and know that running backs are going to go a little bit earlier than they would in those tournament styles. So yeah, we're going to go with Josh Jacobs, just knowing that the running back room is going to dry up and we kind of need those guaranteed touches in this format. Okay, so now Mike Davis goes to the 606, Deebo Samuel. So Deebo Samuel going, honestly, I don't necessarily like to see, because when we do have a George Kittle, it would be nice to go through and get the stack coming in with the Deebo Samuel. That way we can stack Trey Lance and get the double correlation in the starting lineup a little later on. So we're still going to be trying to target Trey Lance if we can. This is not necessarily going to be as much as an emphasis though. So Antonio Brown goes here at the 608. Antonio Brown, definitely a massive, massive riser. Okay, so Justin L. And do you all remember after the first preseason game for Myles Gaskin, I said I could not draft Myles Gaskin until the 7th round. His ADP was in the 5th. Now he's fallen to the 7th. I think that's a perfectly reasonable fall for him. So now when we're taking our third wide receiver, I think that we actually take a Tyler Boyd here, because now we're setting up multiple stacks that we could have later on in the draft where we take a Tyler Boyd, and now we have the potential to also get the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd triple stack. So I really like the idea of just adding another Bengal to this team. And also, when we're taking him as our third wide receiver, we're kind of needing someone that's going to give us a floor each and every week, because this is a league where you have to start 3 receivers. So maybe in a league where you only start 2 receivers in a flex, there I actually prefer someone like a Laviska Shenault, who's going to have a higher ceiling. But in a format like this, with this specific structure, I think that we actually probably go with the Tyler Boyd, given the fact that Tyler Boyd can give us that very high floor. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. Laviska Shenault does go at the 702. Honestly, I'm not going to be considering a Myles Gaskin. I think that we probably continue to go with the receiver position. Now, between Mike Williams, Michael Gallup, Devontae Smith, Juju Smith-Schuster, honestly, I know that a lot of people probably want us to go with the Devontae Smith here, but I think that there's one player that I do not have enough exposure to this year. I was honestly surprised to see that I didn't have enough of him, and that's going to be a Juju Smith-Schuster at the 703. So with a Juju, he's also a player that doesn't match up with any of the buys that we currently have at receiver. Obviously, we're not going to be considering a player like a Russell Wilson when we don't have a Tyler Lockett, we don't have a DK Metcalf early on in this draft. So I think getting our wide receiver 4 there in Juju is going to make a lot of sense. I know a lot of people probably want to see Myles Gaskin, but guys, I didn't like Myles Gaskin before the first preseason game. He was in a void for me before that game. So not going to be too excited about drafting him here at the 703, especially when we already have those touches locked up at the running back position with both a Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a Josh Jacobs. Not going to be at a very, very a high demand to go out there and get him. Okay. So now let's go through, and Fallon says Mac Jones is out here sliding like he is on ice. Let me look this up real quick, my man. Okay, so Mike Williams at the 708. So how is Mac Jones performing right now? Okay, so if we pull this up, Mac Jones, 4 for 5, 53 yards. Cam Newton had a pretty good day. I'm not going to lie. I had not had a chance to watch any of the game before this. I was having to go through. I was having to get some things sorted out, sending out those draft guides for everybody who did use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. So now Mike Williams, Devontae Smith. We pull up the Eagles, and okay, this is interesting. I really want to see the touches for the first team offense. I want to see the touches at running back more in particular. I do have a lot invested into Miles Sanders. So obviously you only see 2 carries, but that doesn't tell nearly the entire story at all. I want to see what actually happened there with the first team offense. Okay, so let's switch that over. Let me know, guys, right now in the chat, what has been y'all's biggest takeaway? Like I said, I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't had a chance to see a second of the game for the Philadelphia Eagles or the New England Patriots. I haven't even had a chance to see what wide receivers or what running backs were out there with the first team offense. And I'll tell you, the snaps actually matter a lot more in trying to figure out the overall formations that they are going to be using and the personnel that's going to be out there compared to how a player plays in one drive, because we already have a great idea of what the player's talent level actually is. Now, I'll say in a Mac Jones scenario, yes, watching Mac Jones definitely makes an impact, and you have to make sure you are going through and monitoring that. And what I want to monitor right now is how the hell is Russell Wilson still falling? I mean, who took DK Metcalf earlier in this draft? Okay, so here, oh my gosh. I think that going with your wide receiver 5 and a Mike Williams at the 708 when you have a DK Metcalf. Now, it works out because I'd imagine this team, yeah, they take Russell Wilson. That was risky to pass on Wilson there for Mike Williams. I probably would have gone Wilson in the 7th. Let me know what y'all think about that. I think Wilson in the 7th is honestly the clear selection. Okay, so now let me pull up the Patriots. I just want to kind of figure out what's going on. So Ramondre Stevenson leading the team in yards. And what's interesting is with Ramondre Stevenson here, he was someone that got touches in the 4th quarter of the first preseason game. So now it looks like he's getting usage in the first half. Now, like I said, Jacoby Myers, 3 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown. We know Jacoby Myers is out there with the first team offense. And Sony Michel, 4 receptions, 37 yards. Is that the most usage Sony Michel's ever had in the receiving game at the college or NFL level? I mean, he didn't even get used like that in Georgia. Very intriguing, very intriguing. Okay, so let's pull this up. And I think that a lot of people here probably know exactly where we're going to go with this next selection. So let's just wait until Justin gets his pick in. He has Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Damian Harris, Tyreek Hill, Adam Thielen, Chase Claypool, and Will Fuller. Okay, so he goes Logan Thomas. We have a very easy choice here. So we ended up taking Davante Adams with the 3rd overall pick. So we're already so committed to the Green Bay offense. It makes a lot of sense to get Aaron Rodgers when he's the best player according to ADP here at the 8-10. When we also draft an Aaron Rodgers, we're only going to have to take one more quarterback in this league. So we're going to have a build where we only have to go 1 tight end, 1 quarterback. Love this team so far. Okay, JN says, Michel only running back to be targeted so far outside of 1 to Stevenson. Sony Michel now leading. That is wild. Also, thank you for the donation, obviously, JN, but I'm not going to change much about the evaluation of Sony Michel and how that he could impact this offense. What I will say is clearly Damian Harris is not a receiving running back. Damian Harris is still someone that I do not want to be drafting in the 6th round in fantasy drafts. I mean, I want nothing to do with Damian Harris. It's so easy for me to go with the Chase Edmonds over Damian Harris, to be honest. I don't see the upside. I don't see the upside whatsoever. Also, guys, if you have not dropped a like in the live stream, make sure you go down there, drop a like, get this live stream over 100 likes. I'm going to try to get a ton of drafts going for us tonight. Okay, so now that we are back up on the clock, I think that we are actually going to continue to go receiver here. So when we get an Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to be less likely to reach to complete our Trey Lance stack. So I think we're just going to go with a player that I know a lot of people probably want to see is going to be a Michael Thomas. I'm not going to do that. If it was a tournament style or we had the fantasy football playoffs, yes. But since this is only a 12-man league where points in week 1 matter just as much as points in week 16, we are going to be going with a Hollywood Brown. Yeah, so we're going to go with Hollywood. I'd imagine that Michael Thomas goes off here, guys. So I wanted to give a brief recap. I'm sure that 99% of people in the chat know this right now, but this is a best ball format. So actually, instead of going through and having the fantasy football playoffs at the very end of the season, what's happening is every single week, your highest score gets added up into your overall points, and then you don't even have matchups. It's just a leaderboard. It goes, okay, Mason obviously has the most points in the league, so he's going to get first. Then after that, it's going to be just say Swizz World, and then it's Justin, and then it's going through and it gets tracked all the way through the season. So you can make sure you're checking in on week 2, week 3, week 4 to see where your team is shaping up. But it's not going to be a point where you get to a tournament at the very end of the season because we're not playing in a tournament here. We're playing in a closed 12-man league. So points in week 1, points in week 2, week 3, week 4, they matter just as much as points at the end of the season. So for that reason, it's very hard to take injured players that are not going to be seeing playing time anytime soon. So we're going to go with a Hollywood Brown here at the 903. Okay, so Corey Davis to the 906. Dallas Goedert. Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones, I actually do like that pick in a format like this. It's only a half PPR format, so the fact that he doesn't catch passes isn't going to be as detrimental. And I think getting a Ronald Jones and a Damian Harris, there's literally no difference in those players for me. So if a Damian Harris was going here in the 9th round, to be honest, I'd be fine taking a Damian Harris. Our problem with Damian Harris is he's a running back that doesn't catch passes that is on a worse offense than Tampa. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever to take Damian Harris. I would never consider that draft pick in a million years. Baby Dragon comes out, says Stevenson with the touchdown. Guys, if y'all are not going to drop a like on my call for Ramondre Stevenson, Literally, when people were telling me that I was an idiot and that he shouldn't get drafted, and we were going through and drafting him in the 18th round of like every single one of these leagues, if y'all are not going to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button for that. I don't know what y'all are going to do. Guys, come on. Come on. Stevenson going out there, back-to-back touchdowns, week 1 and week 2 of the preseason. Steven coming out, long time no see, my man, says, haven't studied up on fantasy football this year, and the 12-team PPR was a good game plan for this year's draft. By the way, my friend Lou Cianis says hi. My man, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I'm sure that you just had me say a ridiculous name. Off the top of my head, I can't necessarily think of how I sounded when I said that, but regardless. Okay, so how I'm approaching fantasy drafts is mainly going to be dictated on what range of the draft you're picking in. So let me scroll up to the top of the board real quick for anybody who's just now joining the stream, and also so we can go through and kind of map this out. And so I'll say that it's really going to be pockets of drafts that you're looking at tiers. So clearly, if you have a top 2 pick, like if you can choose your draft selection, you clearly want the 101 or the 102, as those 2 picks give you access to players that are just far and away better than anything else we're going to be finding in fantasy. Where when you get past these 2 players, I mean, you could make an argument to have Adams, Hill, Kamara, Henry, Zeke. I don't want to throw Aaron Jones in there, but Stephon Diggs. You can have an argument, Saquon Barkley, to have like 6 different guys at the 103. So the middle range is mainly going to be all up to you. What you really have to know is you have to know your league format and know how your team's going to go out there and attack the wide receiver position versus the running back position. So in a league like we play here, where we start 3 receivers, it's going to be a lot more advantageous to take a Davante Adams at the 103 than it would be to start with those running backs. But if you're only playing in a league where you start 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex, then you probably want to be getting your stud running back. And then honestly, after that, we're going receiver, 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 receiver until we find a Travis Etienne in the 5th round. The Travis Etienne in the 5th round is what unlocks this ultimate ceiling build for you. Then an ETN in the 5th round. I'm honestly kind of waiting on quarterbacks, especially in a league where you have some more casual drafters. I think getting a Jalen Hurts very late actually makes a lot of sense based on his rushing capability. So now we are on the clock, and the teams after us are so loaded with running back that if they want to continue to take them, by all means, they can go out there and do it. And knowing that they are so loaded in on running back, and we already have an Aaron Rodgers, we don't need to go with the quarterback. Let's just take a Henry Ruggs. Let's just take the best available receiver according to ADP, knowing that these teams are going to be at a detriment if they continue to draft running backs. I mean, here Senior Skittles has Dalvin, Henderson, Etienne, and A.J. Dillon, and Chapman actually has CMC, Miles Sanders, and Chase Edmonds. So maybe they go with one running back. Melvin Gordon, I'm honestly surprised to see with Senior Skittles go with a running back here, but now we know we'll never have to take a running back coming into this turn again. So I guess that gives us a small advantage from just knowing how our draft is going to be dictated after this. Now, Chapman, let's see where he goes. Possibly he wants to go with running backs as well, but okay, so he goes with the Drake, and I'm happy to see him go with the Kenyon Drake, because when we had Josh Jacobs with this team, really, while yes, drafting Drake would go through and it would raise our floor, it would lower our ceiling. I'm trying to get 1st. I'm not trying to get 6th. So I am happy to see Drake go off the board. Now, Chapman back up on the clock. I'd imagine that we probably see him go with, okay, so he goes with the receiver. He reaches on a Marquez Callaway. That's why we kind of wanted to go with Henry Ruggs here. Emmanuel Sanders goes off. So now, instead of going with the running back, we're faced with the decision, do we get our running back 3 here, or do we get another stack in drafting Joe Burrow? I think both are intriguing options. We do have a Jamar Chase and a Tyler Boyd on this team. So it's close. We're probably going to see a run on receivers, given the fact that we're going to go Burrow. We're going to go Burrow. There are going to be no other quarterbacks with access to his level ceiling that we're going to have later on in our build. And also, we're just only going to have to draft 2 quarterbacks, only going to have to draft 2 tight ends. So if we need to, we can roster 6 running backs. We're probably going to roster 6 running backs on this team. Okay, so here, after we take a Joe Burrow at the 1103, Jalen Hurts goes off. So now that we are done at the quarterback position, we're really starting to hope that other teams kind of pick off these quarterbacks. But I'm not saying that teams are drafting QB here just because we drafted Joe Burrow. Obviously, it was mainly due to the fact that Joe Burrow was one of the guys in that very large tier. They were all best available. So once you had Burrow, you knew that the other guys were going to start going off the board like we have. And honestly, we like to see it. It doesn't make that big of a difference because they were going to be off the board regardless by the time we got back up on the clock. Okay, so let's check in right now and see if there's anything going on in Philadelphia. So guys, let me know a couple things here. Let me know what happened with the first team offense for the Philadelphia Eagles and what the touches and snaps look like for the running backs. Of course, I'm going to have to do all this research and stuff probably tomorrow morning, to be honest, as I go through and I do more drafts tomorrow morning. But if y'all could let me know right now for the other drafts that I'm going to be doing tonight, because we're probably going to get a $50, we're probably going to get a $100 league in. That would be very nice. Just fill me in, my dudes. Fill me in. Gavin says, yo, Mason, how's it going? My man, I'm happy to get these drafts going out tonight. I'm happy to see you out here as well. Ryan says, 106 team review. What are your thoughts? Yes, sir. Let's go through and let's check out Ryan's team at the 106. Let me hide that camera so we can scroll up real quick. And so at the 106 goes Henry, Mixon, Dobbins. Then Brandon Ayuk at the 407. You know I'm not a fan of Kyle Pitts, but yes, this is behind his ADP. I'll say I like what you did in that after you go very running back heavy, you acknowledge the fact that you need to slam these wide receivers in the middle rounds. I don't know if you have enough target volume here to kind of make up for it. You get a Trey Lance to stack with a Brandon Ayuk at the 1007, a Stafford. This Stafford pick, I don't necessarily understand whatsoever. Because while, yes, you're getting a quarterback that's in that last available tier, at the same time, while, yes, you can make the argument that you're getting someone that allows you to only have to roster 2 quarterbacks with this specific format. I mean, you don't have any stacks there. And when you were behind at receiver, I thought it maybe would have made a little more sense to go with a receiver with that pick. But, I mean, after we see these running backs go off, maybe you made the right call if you're going to get a receiver coming back to you in the 12th. Okay, Isaac coming out with the donation says, I might fade Chase Edmonds. Cardinals are using Rondale Moore and jet sweeps and bubble screens during the preseason. This could cut into Chase Edmonds' touches. Well, I mean, that's going to be such a small fraction of what you would actually have for Chase Edmonds. Edmonds is never going to be a running back that's a build of an Ezekiel Elliott, of a Derrick Henry. That's going to get every touch out of the backfield. No, you mainly just want him to get the valuable touches out of the backfield. So I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. It was a small thought that crossed my mind when we did see the usage for Rondale Moore. But unless they start literally putting Rondale Moore behind Kyler Murray, which they can't, Rondale Moore's 5'7". I mean, I wouldn't be too worried about a Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds in the 7th round, I think is fantastic value. Okay. So Jayan says, Patriots running back count on 3 drives, Damian Harris 8, James White 5, Sony Michel 4. If Sony Michel continues to get snaps in New England, Damian Harris is dead. Like drafting Damian Harris in the 6th round is like the worst thing that you could ever do. Because the reason you're drafting Damian Harris there is essentially he's getting every single touch on 1st and 2nd down because we know he's not getting anything on 3rd down. We know that's James White regardless. So if Sony Michel's still going to get touches, Damian Harris should be a pick that's going literally in the range of, he should be going behind James Conner, to be honest. I mean, I think that you have a higher ceiling with the James Conner than you do with a Damian Harris. And I know Damian Harris scored a touchdown in this game, so a lot of people are going to come out here and give me some hate for saying that. But the fact that Ronald Jones is going like 40 picks behind Damian Harris makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, Ronald Jones is in a better backfield. In a better offense. I would argue he's a better running back playing the same exact role. What's the difference? Okay. So we have a little bit of a run on receiver, which we're kind of fine with. So now that we're looking at this, we are no longer drafting QB. So we're just going to be loading up running backs, receivers, and tight ends from here on out. And a big thing is these teams behind us, from a roster construction standpoint, they can't continue to draft running back. So we're not going to be looking at running back coming into the turn here. We can look at someone coming out, but for the rest of the draft, I'm not taking a running back with our 1st pick. We'll take a running back with our 2nd coming out, as we do need to start getting those running backs. And if we were going to look at anybody here, yeah, they're so far down, I don't necessarily want to reach. I think instead we're probably going to start picking off these tight ends in this tier. So I think when we do have someone like a George Kittle, it gives us the advantage of only having to roster one other tight end. So he has a bye week 6. So Adam Troutman's out of the picture. We are just going to be going with the Jonnu Smith here. And now we're only going to be looking at running backs and receivers for the rest of the draft. Okay, so now let's go through. And after this, I'd imagine you probably get some tight ends going at least. I mean, Senior Skittles goes with a Jalen Reagor. He has yet to draft a tight end, which is intriguing. Let's see if there are any quarterbacks at the top of the ADP. We'll pull up the entire ADP until I'm back on. Okay, so maybe they actually go with the QB, considering the fact that you do have that projected volume with the Matt Ryan and a Tua Tagovailoa. It is very weird that Matt Ryan and Tua actually have their ADP around this turn, because usually you actually have the Atlanta Falcons guys going on the other end. I guess Kyle Pitts goes at the 1-2 turn, which kind of lines up with where we have right now. AJ Green goes here. So yeah, we're only going to be looking at running back and receiver. Okay, so we do have 6 receivers with this roster. We are probably going to be committing to a team where we're drafting 8 receivers, 6 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. So once we see Matt Ryan go off, I think we are just going to take Alexander Mattison. So we do not have Dalvin Cook, and that I like it, that if Dalvin Cook does go down, then all of a sudden we can use the ceiling of an Alexander Mattison and build a juggernaut team in theory. So yeah, we're going to get Madison there at the 1303. Let me know if y'all do prefer a Philip Lindsay, because obviously Lindsay is a massive riser after the first week in his preseason game. TK Birdie says N'Keal Harry just got hurt. N'Keal Harry, what a name. What a throwback to that 2019 offseason. Okay, so now let's switch this draft board back over here. So once we take a Jonnu Smith in the 12th, we do want to see more tight ends going. We need to see tight ends and quarterbacks off the board. As many of them off the board as possible is good for us. So Tua Tagovailoa is falling, which is intriguing because usually the teams at the end, we can scroll up to check this out. But usually the teams at the end, those are going to be the rosters that took a Will Fuller, Davante Parker. Yeah, so you have a Davante Parker here, Jalen Waddle. I'd imagine Will Fuller went in this range as well. Did he not? Or did Will Fuller? Usually Will Fuller's never on this side of the draft board. Will Fuller goes at the 704. This is intriguing. Usually he goes behind all of these players and he goes at the 7-8 turn. Now, I know that my brain's broken in memorizing these draft boards. I understand I've done way too many of these drafts. But it is surprising. And I guarantee you, we're probably going to see a Tua not make it past this turn. At least it would be very surprising to see him get past both the Davante Parker and the Jalen Waddle teams who only have one quarterback. Okay, so Jack says N'Keal Harry's career could be over/ruined. I do not know how to break this to you, my man. Okay, so with the statement N'Keal Harry's career could be over/ruined, I hate to tell you this, but N'Keal Harry's career was over the day he graduated. I mean, the day he declared early from ASU. I'm sorry to say it, but I mean, he was someone that never got going in the NFL. And what's really weird is usually with some of those players that never get going, they just never get a real shot. Like they're actually players that go out and for whatever reason can't see the field. N'Keal Harry played a ton his rookie season and he just face planted and he could not get anything going. Okay, so now we have some more tight ends going off the board in both a Jared Cook and a Rob Gronkowski. So we do like to see that happen. Okay, let me look this up. Y'all are saying N'Keal Harry got a concussion. Let me look it up on Twitter and see if I can find the clip while we're live real quick. Probably not an entertaining live stream, just me watching videos on the side, but regardless, let's pull it up. I want to see how bad this was. Okay, so going. Yeah, it looks like nobody's dropping a video on Twitter. Actually, I just found one. Brutal. Okay, so we have some more receivers going. We do need receivers in this draft, but we probably need to get some more running backs in here as well. So like I said, we are no longer drafting running backs going into this turn. Chapman, I mean, maybe he can technically take one more running back through the rest of the draft, but I think they're way more likely to actually be going receiver, and that's the position that we're still needing. So we're going to click off of quarterback, tight end. Just for this one pick right here, we're also clicking off running back because I'm fine getting one back on the turn unless we want to double up. Of course, we have to keep it in the back of our minds that we could double up. How strong am I at receiver? So we have Adams, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, Henry Ruggs. Not that strong. I think our obviously biggest strengths are actually going to be at QB and tight end. Okay, so now N'Keal Harry at the Hunter Henry at the 1409. My brain is broken when we see New England. Okay, so do we want to go double up on running back here, or do we instead just want to take a receiver? You know what? I think in this range, we're probably just going to double up on running back. Let's get a Rashad Penny in here. Y'all know how much I like Rashad Penny. I could see Rashad Penny coming out, and if anything were to occur to Chris Carson, he's a league-winning running back, and it's honestly that simple with the Rashad Penny. So Cole Kmet at the 1411. And Cole Kmet, that's a good value on Cole Kmet. Maybe that makes me kind of regret the Jonnu Smith selection we made earlier. I will go through and I'll revisit the draft board just in 1 second to see exactly how bad that Jonnu Smith selection might have been if it made us pass on a Cole Kmet here at the 1411. Now Tyrell Williams at the 1412. So Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Okay, Senior Skittles literally just can't take another running back. So I think that we made the correct decision in understanding that when we're coming into these turns that these players are not taking RB. But still, I mean, it just was more so a spot where let's take an Xavier Jones. A big reason I'm taking Xavier Jones here is I've been on the train saying that Los Angeles is going to bring someone in. That has yet to happen. It may look like we're going to have to take an L on that. And if we have to take an L on that, it's going to be easy to go through and try to hedge some of our exposure by getting an Xavier Jones at his ADP. Because if I'm very underweight on a Darrell Henderson, I mean, at least maybe we'll have some Xavier Jones. Okay. So Chat Town Cars comes out, says, what's up, Mason? Love the draft guide. Also message you on Patreon to get a team breakdown. Appreciate the content, bro. No, my man, thank you so much for coming out to the live stream, making a donation, and using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy to get that draft guide. I'm happy to hear that you're liking it. And I'll say, guys, if you've gotten that draft guide yet by using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, well, I definitely love the messages where, I mean, you don't even know how many messages I've gotten from people just saying, Mason, I love the draft guide. Oh my God, I've never heard anybody talk about fantasy football this way before. I love hearing those messages, but at the same time, please, what I really need from everybody who's gotten that 2021 draft guide is I want your constructive feedback on how I can make it better for next year. Because just how we revisit all our drafts and I go, what did I do wrong here? What can we improve next time? I want to be doing the same thing with our 2021 draft guide. So even if you liked it 99.999% of the way, but there was one small thing that you think can be improved on, please let me know what that thing is, because I want to be putting out the best content humanly possible. And with this draft guide, I am so proud of the work that went into it, but it was my first draft guide for a season ever. We have hundreds of pages of information out there, but at the same time, I want to make sure that like the next one is, I want to make it a New York Times bestseller draft guide. Okay. So Daniel says he just saw Todd Gurley in LA. At least I'm assuming if I'm reading that correctly. So Lucas says he thought we were going to take a KJ Hamler. So obviously y'all know how much I love KJ Hamler. I was drafting KJ Hamler in like the 18th round a ton before the first week of the preseason. But I think that's probably more important for us to go out there and actually get a running back. I am going to want 5 running backs in this build. I'm really happy we took Josh Jacobs earlier. If we did not take Josh Jacobs earlier, this team would be complete toast. But I actually like the balance that we have at running back receiver. I think we have an elite tight end room with a combination of George Kittle, Jonnu Smith, an elite quarterback room in the combination of Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow, stacking both players at a relatively good value. So yeah, I think that this team was constructed well. Let's go up and let's look at things that we could have done to potentially make it better though. So one thing that I discussed is possibly instead of taking a Jonnu Smith here, going somewhere else and getting a player like Cole Kmet at the 14-10, because obviously y'all know Cole Kmet is going to be a target of mine this year if we're talking late dart throws. So if we were going to make a swap like that, what would we have had to do? We would have essentially had to take, instead of a Jonnu, we would have gone with a Philip Lindsay and an Alexander Madison here. And then instead of penny Xavier Jones, we probably would have gotten a Cole Kmet, and maybe we could have taken a receiver here as well. Let me know what y'all think of the combination of Jonnu Smith and Rashad Penny versus the combination of Philip Lindsay and Cole Kmet. That's essentially the 2v2 that we're looking at. I think I messed that up. I think we probably should have passed on the tight end position. I think we probably should have gone elsewhere, especially knowing that what we could have done instead is just get a Gerald Everett or an Evan Ingram a little later. So that was a mistake that we made in this draft. Okay, Jonathan says, how do I get into one of those underdog drafts? Do you just post the link when you're about to start? Yes, sir. So what will happen is that link that y'all see gets sent out in the live chat as we stream. It's also in the comment section. It's in the description of the video. That main link everywhere. That's for y'all to sign up to Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK to get the $25 added to your account on a $10 deposit. And also, because Underdog Fantasy is adding that money to your account, and they're literally paying you $25 to go out there and do fantasy football drafts, they are going to have to confirm your identity, which does take, in my experience, it took 3 or 4 minutes. I've heard other people say that it takes them no time whatsoever and it's literally instantaneous. But just in case it does take you 3 to 4 minutes like me, I want to make sure you're getting signed up before we send out the link to the private draft. Because when we send out a link to the private draft that we're going to have on Underdog, which we do this every single night until the season starts, I'll be going through and I'll say, this is the private link, or this is the $5 draft, or this is the $50 draft. And I'll send out a link to a private league. And that way you just click that link and you're in. Okay, so now we are back up on the clock. So to end this draft off, we're going to go with one more running back, one more receiver. I think at running back, I think we can pass on running back because Chapman, I don't know if he's going to draft another running back. He could, but at the same time, I know John Brown definitely going to be playing behind Bryan Edwards currently, but getting him at the 16-10 on the same team where we have Henry Ruggs, I think that is going to be fine in that we're just essentially making a bet going, what if Bryan Edwards is just bad at football? What if Bryan Edwards, his rookie season is actually who he is? And if that's the case, I actually do like the John Brown selection. He's going to be still running in 3 wide receiver sets for Las Vegas. So let's take Brown there, just a massive value. We could potentially see Chapman take a running back. I'm not worried about Senior Skittles taking a running back here whatsoever. Okay, so now let's go through Darrington Evans. Okay, so we're just going to get Tevin Coleman. We're going to lock in Tevin Coleman. And at this point, we're just trying to chase running back touches. We punted our running back 3, so we more so just have a committee going through and cycling in. Obviously, if we had an injury to either Darrell Henderson, Chris Carson, Dalvin Cook, then all of a sudden we have a very high upside team. Now, the probability of that happening, probably small, but the probability of one of those running backs just randomly going off throughout the season and maybe sliding into our lineup, it's okay. It's okay. So we're going to go and we're going to end up drafting a Tevin Coleman here. We've actually already had my guy, my sleeper that we had a long time ago in a player like Ramondre Stevenson go at the 1603. My face is covering him up just for 1 second. And also, guys, we are about to pass 150 likes in the live stream. Thank you so much for everybody who's gone down there and dropped that like. And I see someone asking, are we going to do a $100 draft next? Because the game is currently on, so we don't have as many people in this live stream, we're not going to do the $100 draft right now. So we'll wait until the game's over. We'll possibly do a $100 draft tonight. We'll at the very minimum do a $50 or $100 draft tonight, but we can possibly get a $100 draft going depending on how many people come out here. The thing is, I don't necessarily want to get a $100 draft going and then have nobody watching it, and I did not mean to do that. Let's switch it back over here. And then we get that $100 draft going. Nobody comes out to watch it, and I just invested $100 that we could have waited until there were more eyes on the $100 draft. So definitely make sure if you want that $100 draft to go down there and drop that like so we can get some more eyeballs on the stream, some more people in the chat. Okay, so Jonathan says, if you want some criticism of the guide, have some non-PPR rankings for next year. I know you spoke about the adjustments making for the league settings, but the rankings would be nice as well. Yes, sir. I think that, trust me, I got a lot in the works for what we can do next year. I have a lot in the works. That's going to be one of them, though, my man. Thank you. Gavin says he's feeling a $1,000 draft. My man, we tried to get a $500 draft going the other night, and that was a debacle trying to get that $500 draft going. I mean, it was a spot that I thought we were going to easily fill it. I had a lot of people tell me that they wanted in, and I sat around trying to fill that $500 draft forever. We only had like 6 people in there, and I just eventually had to throw in the towel, and we did a couple $100 drafts instead. So $1,000 draft, I don't think we're getting that filled. Mike says, if I leave a draft I joined, do I get my money back? If you were still in the lobby and you join a draft and the draft is not about to start or the room is not filled, like if you're sitting in a lobby and then you go through and it's like, just say 3 out of 12 people there waiting in a public league, and then you leave, yes, you get your money back. Now, if you're in round 4, round 5, and you go, you know what, I really didn't like that they gave me the 108. I hate how my draft started. Let's leave in the 5th round. You're not getting your money back, obviously. Okay. So yeah, now we're just going to go with the receiver. So at least I'm assuming we're going receiver. Yeah, we have 6 running backs. So let's just bring in someone that we know is going to be playing snaps. I think Darius Slayton, probably a favorite to play snaps. If we were going to go through and we were going to play in the tournament, we could consider a Kadarius Toney. You know what? Actually, with this team, we're going to go Kadarius Toney regardless. We're going to go with a Kadarius Toney. I know a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with that selection. And if it was a tournament, I would be scrolling down, looking a little further on this list. Well, let me show y'all the top of the draft board really quick, and the middle and the bottom. If y'all need to pause it, take a screenshot, whatever. We're going to get another draft going right now, though. So I hope you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Okay, so now let's switch this over. And Kenneth coming out with a donation. Thank you. And Willie's with one as well. Let me get to Kenneth real quick. It says, hey, Mason, I downloaded Underdog and used your promo code. How do I get your draft guide and rankings? Very, very simple. Just go to the description of the video. It says right there. All you need to do is shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord. I know a lot of y'all don't have social media, so it's completely fine. Discord is a place where you literally just have to click on a link. Then you're in our fantasy football group chat. Then you can click on my name. And all you have to do is DM me your email. You can insult me while you do it. Go, Mason, you bum. You don't know what you're talking about. Give me your draft guide. I use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, but you have to send me the email that you used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy with. That way I can go through and I can confirm. And then I send out that draft guide right away. I mean, probably the longest someone has ever had to wait on a draft guide is like 3 hours. The majority of the time, it's out in like 15 minutes. Okay. Willie also says, hey, bro, does Underdog do Dynasty as well? No, Underdog Fantasy Football does not do Dynasty. Sadly, trust me, my man. I wish that Underdog did Dynasty. But let's go through. Let's get another draft going. I'm going to ask y'all in the chat right now. Actually, let's get a $5 draft going right now. And then after the game, I promise y'all we're going to get at least one $50 draft going tonight. But let's get a $5 draft going right now. And then we can figure something out a little later. I'm going to send out the private link in the live chat right now. Okay, perfect. For a second, I thought we were going to glitch. No, it looks good. I thought my computer was messing up. Okay, so okay, let's get the 101 here. I'm feeling it. We're getting the 101 in this draft. Okay. Actually, no, I lied. Give me the 112. We'll take the 101 when we're doing the 50 or the $100 draft. Give me the 112. 112. We get the 102. I'm happy with it. Today, I have had the best luck ever when it comes to our draft position. I mean, I got the 103 in a draft that we did earlier today. I got the 101 in a draft we did earlier today. Keep in mind, these weren't on the live stream. And then in the first draft of the live stream, I got the 103 again. So literally every draft that I've done today, I've been a top 3 pick. Finally, our luck is turning around. I hate to see that it's not happening when we're in the $100, the $50 leagues. Instead, it's the $5 draft that we're doing right now. But regardless, we're going to roll with it. We're going to get that practice in for when we are in those $100 drafts. You know, we're locking in a Dalvin Cook here. Let's not make the mistake of taking Davante Adams accidentally over Dalvin Cook again. That was really bad. Okay. So X Point says, what if we live in a state that doesn't allow us to sign up? How could we get the rankings? I also have the rankings available on Patreon for anybody who's a member of the flock on Patreon. I don't talk about that as much just because it helps out the show just as much if you go through, if you take advantage of the offer that we have on Underdog Fantasy. And at the same time, you get way more in return. I mean, you get the entire draft guide. You get our updated rankings. Now, of course, you get a lot with Patreon at the same time. Don't want to talk down on Patreon. I've just been focusing in on the Underdog partnership because, I mean, it's literally a no-brainer deal for y'all. And I really want to hit 10,000 signups because I really want to go to that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with y'all. And I really want to get that Florida Flock meetup going. I just think it would be so fun to have that, so fun to hang out with all of y'all. And at the same time, get it all vlogged for the channel. I mean, I think that would be like monumental for the channel. So I'm really hoping we hit that 10,000 signups. And I'll send out a Patreon link for anybody who's wanting to join the flock on Patreon. And I don't also talk about Patreon that much because we have had so many people joining the flock on Patreon as of late. We are up to 915 people. I can't even tell you how many. Let me look at how many people have joined this month. This month alone on Patreon, 226 people have joined in the last 20 days. So that's why I don't talk about Patreon a lot, because I'm kind of figuring that y'all are already finding our Patreon regardless, and we've been getting a ton of positive feedback about that. I will send that out. The link's also in the description of the video, but I can send it out in the live chat real quick for anybody. Okay, so after taking a Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Davante Adams, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, Zeke, Tyreek Hill, very rarely do you see Ezekiel Elliott going down here at the 107. This has definitely been a riser over the past month or so, not necessarily due to anything in particular, more so just the entire fantasy football community kind of raising their evaluations on an Ezekiel Elliott, which is intriguing when that happens. Like when we don't really have news, yet a player jumps up. I'll say a perfect example of this is actually an Antonio Brown, who earlier in the offseason was going in the double-digit rounds, and now he is a consistent 6th round selection. Not saying it's a bad pick. I'm just saying that sometimes the fantasy football community will take one player and they'll just drive that ADP, drive that draft price up. Okay, so a fire coming out says Jonathan Taylor or Cam Akers upcoming fantasy football this season. So I'm assuming you're saying for the following year, and for the following year, you have to go with the Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I literally had Cam Akers in 50% of my dynasty leagues. Y'all know how much I love dynasty fantasy football. And I had Cam Akers ranked as our running back 4 in dynasty before the injury, but I still had Jonathan Taylor higher. And with Jonathan Taylor, he's not coming off a torn Achilles. So if we're talking 2022, you have to go with JT. Okay, so you have Barkley, Taylor going to the same team. If this was a tournament style team, I mean, this would just be a scary, scary roster. I mean, getting the start of Barkley, Taylor is disgusting. And we do have a couple new people out to the draft. We have Dylan Sully. I believe that's a new name. I believe Boston M is a new name as well as Rummy Rams. I kind of figured that there were going to be no new names in this stream in particular, because usually we get the new names out here when we have a very large stream. And I'm assuming that really only the regulars are in this stream right now because everybody's watching that game. But I'm excited that we got some new people in here. I'm excited that we got some new people in. Tall Boy says, what kind of computer do you use? Okay, so I will say I do not know anything about computers. I am like the worst computer guy ever. So whenever I realized that for these live streams, I couldn't do it on my laptop anymore and I needed a real computer, I just went out and I just bought a Mac. I just got like the biggest Mac they had. Obviously not like the really expensive one that has like its little computer, like the box that goes with it. That one's like $8,000. And of course, I wish I was balling like that, but we're not. So instead, we just have a regular Mac. And I really like it, to be completely honest. Like editing videos and doing Photoshop and everything is perfect. Okay, so the 211... we have Najee Harris. The 211, we can do a couple different things. So what's interesting is I know in a league like this that it's not a tournament style and that we're only doing the 12-man league. I mean, there are going to be more people going with, I'm kind of wanting to stretch this out. So Fallon picks. Okay, yeah, there are going to be more people going with running backs early than in other formats. So we're going to go with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We're going to get 2 running backs to start off this draft. So yeah, we're going to go Dalvin Cook, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We're either going to take a tight end or a receiver here. Obviously, that's going to be, I mean, nobody needs me to say that out loud. Okay, Confine says Mac Jones is check down happy, but looks solid. And TK Birdie says Mac Jones is throwing darts. Mac Jones is someone, if you really think that he's going to take over for Cam Newton earlier in the offseason than most people believe, then you can go out there and you can draft him in the last round of one of these $1 million drafts on Underdog Fantasy. And you can just print, because his ownership is going to be very, very low. So if he would blow up during the tournament weeks, I mean, you could take advantage massively. Okay, George Kittle at the 303. Allen Robinson here. No surprises so far in this draft. If we're talking about the biggest surprise that we have seen in this draft so far, I don't even know if we could say this looks like the most standard draft board I've ever seen. There are no teams that even look that interesting, to be honest. Every team's extremely balanced. I mean, Zachary, he's the only team without a position right now. I mean, he has 2 running backs and that's it. But running back, receiver, running back, receiver, running back, receiver, running back, receiver, running back, receiver. Let's see what Swizzworld does. Maybe he takes Swift here and he mixes it up, or he takes Dobbins and it gets a little interesting in this draft. But right now it's, yeah, so he goes with a balanced start as well. My God, this is like the most balanced draft I've ever seen. I kind of want to do something crazy. I kind of wish we would have gone with a Kittle here and we would have punted receiver or something, just to mix it up, just to make it interesting so we can track some team along the way. Swift goes at the 307, Amari Cooper at the 308. Zayed says Lamb over Robinson, ? Yes, it's more so a bet on the overall Dallas Cowboys offense, and that you could easily see Dallas being near the top of the NFL in both pace and volume. So obviously getting those pass catchers and having someone with an elite ceiling as a CeeDee Lamb, we are going to be taking him there at the 302. Another thing is I literally have Allen Robinson in like every single league. And the reason for that is I'm drafting Allen Robinson consistently in the middle of the third, where y'all know I'm literally in drafts all day. So and this is a completely honest thought process for y'all. So if I'm in drafts all day, right, and I'm consistently being able to draft Allen Robinson in the middle of the third, very rarely when I have the potential to draft a CeeDee Lamb here at the 302, we kind of have to take advantage, because I will probably only have about 5-6% of CeeDee Lamb across all my fantasy leagues this year. And I'll have like probably 18% of Allen Robinson, which I know doesn't sound like that big of a deal. But when you're playing in as many leagues as I am, it's a massive, massive deal. If all of a sudden that we are taking Allen Robinson over CeeDee Lamb in fantasy drafts, when we already have that stark divide, when I'm willing to take CeeDee Lamb over him just based on where we are compared to consensus on an Allen Robinson, then I'd have Allen Robinson in like 30% of my leagues, and I'd have CeeDee Lamb in absolutely none. So we do have to make that divide. We have to draft CeeDee Lamb over A-Rob. I think they have similar floors. Maybe Allen Robinson has a slightly higher floor and CeeDee Lamb has a slightly higher ceiling, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, he's attached to Dak Prescott. Dustin says, Mason, can you do a regular public league so we can see your strategy against more diverse competition? The problem with me going through, and I do regular public leagues throughout the day, I highly encourage you, like I send out a notification. I didn't like notify y'all or anything, but I sent out an announcement on Discord earlier today saying, hey, right now I'm going through and I'm doing these drafts. I'll be in here for probably the next 3 hours. If you want to hop into a public league, you'll probably see me, because I promise y'all, if y'all are drafting on Underdog Fantasy, and what is really nice about Underdog Fantasy is you can get in these drafts and you can do real money drafts that you don't have to submit the starting lineup. You don't have to do waivers through the season because it's a best ball format, and you can go up against strangers. So I'll be in those public leagues all day where if you go, and if I promise you, if you go like on a 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, on a Thursday, whatever it is, and you just look at the names in the league. I mean, I always look at the names in the league just to see if I recognize any of them and see any of y'all in here. You'll see Fantasy Flock in a lot of those. You'll see me out there grinding. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. So at the 411, Darrell Henderson goes here at the 409. Deontay Johnson goes. So we're going to get a running back that we like falling back to us regardless with this next pick. So we're just going to go with the Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase, like I've said this so many times before, but don't pin me the Jamar Chase guy. Don't pin me the Josh Jacobs guy. I hated these players when they were going way higher in fantasy drafts. Now that they're falling, I'm going to be willing to take them. I was screaming that they were overrated before, so don't try to tell me that a Jamar Chase is overrated here at the 411, because I was the first person screaming that Jamar Chase was severely overrated. But here at the 411, we're going to be fine taking him. I mean, he's going behind T. Higgins. He's going behind Brandon Ayuk, which is what we said should have happened all along. So I'm fine with him now. Adam Thielen goes. So here's my thought process. And I've been thinking about this more and more. So if you're playing in a regular fantasy football league that has the playoffs, here we're going Travis Etienne every single time, because by the time we get to the playoff setting, Travis Etienne's going to be racking up so many points and he has that elite ceiling. But we could easily see through the first month of the season, yes, James Robinson could potentially have a role. So instead, do we just go, I think we're going to quote unquote reach. We're going to get a Josh Jacobs. We're just going to be so overweight on Josh Jacobs this year. And it's mainly just because they're guaranteed touches in a format like this. It's so hard to come by at the running back position. And it's going to allow us to only have to roster 5 running backs in this league. And we can go through and we can get some extra receivers. And while I was saying, yes, Josh Jacobs, very overrated. We were saying this a month ago. I hate having to say this every time, but I don't want to be labeled the Josh Jacobs drafter, because we were saying he was overrated and he was going ahead of Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods. People were making those draft picks. And now all I'm saying is, hell, I'd rather have Josh Jacobs over Odell Beckham Jr. Sue me. Even though I thought he was overrated and he was going ahead of Chris Godwin. It's like Chris Godwin, Josh Jacobs, Odell Beckham Jr. We've had Josh Jacobs here the entire time. Other people had him up here, and then everybody wants to move him down. And now I'm fine going, okay, well, this is where he should get drafted. We'll take him. I mean, I think it's a fair price. Okay, guys, if you have yet to go down there and drop a like on the channel, make sure you go down there, drop that like. We're going to get a $50. We're going to get a $100. We're going to at least get one of those drafts going tonight. And I'm going to try to get us 4 drafts tonight. I'm going to be drafting a ton, because I was only able to get and did 2 drafts earlier this morning. It wasn't this morning. It was more so like 1 p.m., but still. We were only able to do 2 drafts today. Y'all know I got that itch. Y'all know I have to keep on going, keep on grinding. I want to get in as many of these leagues as possible. Okay, so TJ Hawkinson at the 508. Nitty Gritty says Adam Thielen is going to make a lot of people feel dumb this season. My man, Nitty Gritty, I will say one thing. I know you are always in here talking up the Minnesota Vikings players, which is completely fine. But if you're going to talk up the Minnesota Vikings players, you at least have to hide the Minnesota Vikings Avi. You have to at least take Justin Jefferson out of there, because it is so clear. It's the most clear thing ever. If you see someone just going and being a homer for their own team, if you literally have that as your avatar. So just a heads up, if you want more people to take you serious about the Minnesota Vikings hype, you can't have a Minnesota Vikings avatar. Mike says, join Underdog $50 public. We have 3 spots left. Don't join a public. Join a league on the stream. What are y'all doing, my dudes? Okay, Allen at the 601. So this Allen team did take Stephon Diggs. That's a fantastic turn here to go with Allen and Judy. I mean, you definitely needed a receiver once you go 3 running backs in a row here. But getting that stack with the Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, very few teams actually have that ceiling. Then Lamar. It is intriguing to take Lamar when you don't have access to a Mark Andrews when you decided to go so heavy on running back. So I do want to focus on these 2 teams at the end of the draft and that they did pass on receiver mainly. I'll say we're kind of in the same boat where we passed on receiver as well. But maybe that drives up running backs considering there are a lot of teams through this point. Like, yeah, Party Till She's Hot, Fully Loaded, Dylan Sullivan, Senior Skittles. They all only have 1 running back on their roster. So, yeah, you see Party Till She's Hot take Kareem Hunt here. So maybe you see them start to rise up a little bit. Okay, so Hunt goes to the 603. Y'all know my opinion on Hunt. I mean, I'm just getting Kareem Hunt everywhere I can. Literally everywhere I can. The 4 Sportsman says, Mason, love your stuff. I just used code FLOCK for Underdog. My man, thank you so much. Like I said, guys, this is why the partnership is so good because it makes so much sense for y'all literally just to be selfish and go out there and do it. And at the same time, it helps the channel tremendously when y'all do use that promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. So thank you, my man. I really do appreciate that. I wish we could have an alert when someone did. Like, I wish I could tie the 2 because I do get the list updated with the emails that sign up. But I don't know. I don't even think there is a way I could tie that list to Streamlabs to have like a little alert for every time someone signed up with promo code FLOCK and Underdog. It'd be so cool though. I would, if there would be anybody that's smart enough with live stream software that knows how to do that, please reach out to me. I would be very interested. Okay. So we already have 3 running backs in this team. So we're just looking wide receiver here. I mean, it's not a secret to anybody. We need receivers on this roster. We only have CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase, while we do have Dalvin Cook, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs. So this team is loaded up with running backs. We are perfectly fine at RB. We just need to start bringing some receivers in here. So Antonio Brown goes to the 610. Okay. You know what? There are a couple. We're going to go get Dak. I mean, we have CeeDee Lamb, so we're going to get the stack. When we take Dak, we only have to take 1 other quarterback. We are going to take a wide receiver no matter what with this next pick, though. I mean, it has to be a receiver. So Romy Rams goes Chase Edmonds. Like to see Edmonds go off when we already have a lot of running backs and Justin Herbert. So we are going to get our favorite receiver in this range. We're going to go with a Laviska Shenault. You have actually, I mean, I drafted Trevor Lawrence. I'm not lying. I drafted Trevor Lawrence in a public league today, 30 picks behind his ADP. It was to the point where he had fallen so far, I had to pull up, like I had 20 seconds left on the clock, and I was frantically searching on Twitter. I was like, did Trevor Lawrence tear his ACL today? Did something happen in the last 30 minutes? I mean, so maybe we get Trevor Lawrence falling to us and we get that stack with a Laviska Shenault. But regardless, I'm going to like the Shenault pick even if we don't get Lawrence. Steven says, I tried to join Underdog today, but it is not offered in Canada. Underdog Fantasy is offered in Canada, my man. The app is not in Canada, but if you use your computer, you can do Underdog Fantasy. Yeah, I promise you. We have a lot of people that play from Canada in these leagues. As we have a lot of people on Patreon from Canada. So I talk with y'all regularly, the Canadians. Okay, so Michael Carter goes to the 705. We are liking to see those running backs go off. We want as many of these running backs to go off the board as possible. Sutton at the 706. Let me know what y'all think of this Javonte Williams selection at the 507. Because with Javonte, this is a running back that I thought was underrated like a week ago. But that was back whenever we actually had Javonte Williams as a 6th-round pick. He was going behind Kareem Hunt. He was going behind Mike Davis. He was going behind Myles Gaskin. And I was screaming that there's no reason in hell where Javonte Williams should be drafted behind a Mike Davis or a Myles Gaskin. Now you're seeing that this is kind of changing. You're actually seeing that a Mike Davis is sliding down drafts as well as Myles Gaskin. People are finally realizing that Myles Gaskin should slide down and that they were being way too aggressive with the projection for his volume and his guaranteed role this upcoming season. So Javonte Williams at the 507 seems a little rich for me, but maybe I'm just used to having the luxury of being able to draft him at the end of the 6th round every single time. Joshua says, what is your favorite spot to draft from currently? Joshua, I hate to tell you this, my man, but that is about the dumbest question. I say this every single time, guys. The best spot to draft from, and it's not even close, is the 101. It's not funny, the advantage that Christian McCaffrey gives you in fantasy football. And it sounds like a monkey saying it like, oh, best player, best advantage. But he is so ahead of the rest of the field. I mean, a few years ago, we had a David Johnson, a Le'Veon Bell. They were literally like neck and neck. You didn't know who they were going to be at running back 1 overall. We've had multiple years where, I mean, it's kind of been a top tier of players, and you can go through, you can argue the best draft position. But since Christian McCaffrey took over in 2019 and he has the ceiling to go out and average 29 fantasy points per game, literally, if Christian McCaffrey has his 2019 season again, he literally wins about 30% of people their fantasy leagues. And that's crazy to say that he's going to have a 30% win rate when we know a standard win rate for a player is about 8%. So he's 4 times better than any other player. And that's including the draft price that you have to spend to go out there and get him. So it's boring to say, but it's Christian McCaffrey. It's the 101. It's not even close. Okay, so we have some more receivers going off at this turn. Devontae Smith, Juju, DJ Chark, Mecole Hardman, Will Fuller, and Jarvis Landry. I'll say if you don't have Mahomes, I'm probably going to go with the Will Fuller over Mecole Hardman, even though I think Hardman is very intriguing. And let me kind of get a Mecole Hardman rant going real quick, because so many people have reached out to me and go, Mason, do you not know DeMarcus Robinson is playing in 2 wide receiver sets for Kansas City? Did you not know that Mecole Hardman's wide receiver 3 on the team? Do you know how little a 2 wide receiver set for Kansas City actually means? Do you know how often they actually ran a 2 wide receiver set last year? They ran a 2 wide receiver set in Kansas City on 25% of the plays. And if you look at when Kansas City actually ran those 2 wide receiver sets, it's not when Mahomes is dropping back to throw the ball. It's when they need to kill the clock. They need to actually go out there and run it. Maybe it's a 2nd and 1 and they're just trying to pick up the first down regardless. And if you look at how many receivers play more than 80% of snaps in the NFL, I mean, you'd be surprised to see the actual number. Most receivers 99% of receivers don't play 90% of the snaps. So if Mecole Hardman is sitting out on 25% of the snaps, and those are the snaps that they're not throwing the ball anyway, of course, they're going to throw the ball some on those snaps. But I mean, if he's missing out on 10% of the snaps that they throw the ball on, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. DeMarcus Robinson's in there because he's bigger and he's much better in the run game. He's a much better blocker. It's not rocket science. Like, he's still the wide receiver 2 if you're talking about the target order, which definitely matters. Okay, so after that rant, we are going to take a Jalen Waddle here. Michael Thomas, a lot less intriguing in this league because we do have the fact that we need to score points in week 1, week 2, week 3. It matters just as much as in week 16, week 17, and week 15 because there are no playoffs for this league. It's just who can score the most points through the season. Okay, so now Ronald Jones goes to the 901. I honestly really don't like Ronald Jones going. I possibly should have taken Rojo at the 811. That may be a mistake on me. But when we do have a Dalvin Cook, a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and a Josh Jacobs, we are kind of fine punting just that position overall. So I think now we actually go with the Logan Thomas. We have yet to draft a tight end on this team. We're possibly going to have to draft 3, just given the fact that we did miss out on that tier of guys that you could feel very comfortable with. Y'all know I've been on Logan Thomas, though, so we're going to be fine with him at the 902. Okay. And also a big thing with Mecole Hardman, guys. I don't know how many people actually know about Mecole Hardman and have done in-depth research versus just heard a few little blurbs and people go, okay, well, he didn't do good for us last year. Why should he do good for us this year? If you don't know about Mecole Hardman, this was a 5-star player coming out of high school, but he wasn't coming out of high school at the receiver position. He was coming out of high school at the defensive back position. This is why he does not go out and see the field whatsoever at Georgia his true freshman year, because he needs to go through and develop. And did you also know that with Mecole Hardman, he is literally entering his age 23 season? This is the same year that Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel from that same draft class played their rookie seasons at. So can we give him a break? If any receiver deserves a break on being bad through the first 2 years of their NFL career, which I'm not going to debate, Mecole Hardman was bad the first 2 seasons, but it was your fault for drafting Mecole Hardman if you drafted him last year. It was your fault for drafting him his rookie season if you drafted him, because he's a receiver that should have never been expected to be able to go out there and earn a role over Sammy Watkins, a clear-cut professional, while he was still developing. It was always a long shot play in Kansas City. It was a draft based on his raw potential and what he could develop into. So when you're drafting a player based on what he could develop into, just because he's not developed right away, you can't necessarily hold that against him. Now, it'd be different if with a Mecole Hardman, you were having to go out there and you were having to draft him in a very aggressive manner. But I mean, he's falling to you in these drafts. So he's literally the same age now that Terry McLaurin was his rookie year. Does that not mean anything to anybody? Does that not mean anything to anybody that he just started playing the receiver position? Do y'all know how hard it is to develop the receiver position? This is a running back scenario where all you have to do is see a hole, run through it as fast as you can, make a defender miss. It's not an Antonio Gibson position. I mean, you really have to go through and develop. Jack from the 2 says, Dak Prescott over Aaron Rodgers, question mark. Yes, I have Dak ranked over Aaron Rodgers straight up, and we have CeeDee Lamb on this team. I would have never considered taking Rodgers at the 6-11. Okay, so now let's go through. Red Mamba says, thanks for telling us to draft Ramondre Stevenson, Mason. He is looking great. Hey, I need that same type of hype when we get McCole Hardman breaking out. I need that same type of hype when McCole Hardman. And what's going to be so funny is if we get a Tyreek Hill injury and McCole Hardman's like a top 15 receiver for a month, and people go, oh, it's only because Tyreek Hill got hurt. That's kind of what's being baked into the McCole Hardman draft prices. We know the offensive volume in Kansas City is going to be so high, regardless of the personnel that's there, that if you have an injury to either Travis Kelce or a player like a Tyreek Hill, I mean, the volume's going to be there regardless. The passing, I mean, you're going to expect Mahomes to maybe drop 10% in his passing yards per game. Who is that going to go to if that happens? You think that Tyreek Hill is going to all of a sudden get 150 receiving yards a game? It literally, the math doesn't check out. So McCole Hardman is someone that I've said this before, that with McCole Hardman, if we are going through and with a range of outcomes lens, we go, okay, 70% of the time, McCole Hardman does not live up to his ADP. 70% of the time, McCole Hardman was not a good draft pick for where you got him. So I know a lot of people go, well, why should I draft him? Because the 30% of the time that McCole Hardman is a good draft pick, he is a league-winning player. So those are the players that I'm targeting. I'm trying to make sure that if we whiff on a player, I mean, it's a very small loss, but if we hit on a player, it's a massive, massive gain. And I think those are the kind of prototypes you should be going after. Okay, so now that we're about to be back on the clock, do we just want to get a Jalen Hurts here? We're going to go Jalen Hurts, and we're just going to be done at QB. Let's go Jalen Hurts. He has a different bye week as a Dak Prescott. We can expect spike weeks from both players. So Henry Ruggs, the 10-12. Okay, that's nice because I was really wanting to make sure that we can get a running back on the way back here. I assume that we were going to. You know what? Maybe that Jalen Hurts pick wasn't that good because we could have got Lawrence to stack, but it's okay. Let's go through and let's get Tony Pollard here. Obviously, if anything were to occur to Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard vaults up into a massive, massive range where Tony Pollard's a very similar type player. 70 to 80% of the time, Tony Pollard is probably not better than Leonard Fournette. But the 30% of the time that he is better than Leonard Fournette, he's a player that you can't win your fantasy league without. Those are the players that we're trying to target. I'm not trying to target the guy that's you're going to draft him as the wide receiver 38, and oh, great for you, he's the wide receiver 35. That didn't do anything for you. I mean, I would rather the wide receiver either be the wide receiver 60 or the wide receiver 20. And we know, okay, we cut him or we go through and we play him in our starting lineup each and every week. Like if I pull up right now, actually, let's get to JN's message real quick. JN says CMC R number 10, 2 minus number 2. Okay. You're saying, so CMC builds. Jay, and I have no idea what you're saying there, my man. I'm so sorry, but that is complete gibberish to me. Okay, so people are saying Stevenson's really going off. Let me look up Ramondre Stevenson. If we were going to get jerseys in the studio, you better believe we're getting a Ramondre Stevenson after everybody gave me so much hate for saying that he was someone that you wanted to be drafting. Instead of Damian Harris going in the 6th, we were saying to get Ramondre Stevenson in the last pick of your draft. That was a real take that we had, and people were giving me so much hate for it, saying that it was a wasted pick and that he would never be anything. So let's look him up right now. Let's see what he's doing. 8 carries, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. I want to see it. I'm not necessarily just going to go off these raw statistics. In a preseason game, it doesn't mean that much. But obviously, if you drafted him in the last round, just based on the trade value alone that spiked up, that's going to be a pretty damn good pick. Okay, so let's go through. Let's turn this off. Brian Edwards goes to the 11-10. Definitely a riser. And Teresa says, at Jack, he's not saying Dak is better. I'm saying Dak is better than Aaron Rodgers. Are y'all telling me that Dak is not a better option in fantasy football than Rodgers? I think there are so many things to point to that Dak Prescott is a significantly better value. I will go through. Let me show you all the top of the draft board real quick, just for anybody who's just now coming into the live stream. And you better believe if you are just now coming into the live stream, go down there, drop a like. Let's set a goal right now. Let's set a goal right now in this stream. If this stream, which in the yesterday's it did, if this stream hits 500 and we'll call 525 likes, we'll do 4 drafts tonight. Let's get the stream to 525 likes. We'll do 4 drafts tonight. We are on our second one right now. We're 100% getting a draft going after this one, regardless. So Dak, I mean, I'm not saying he's a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers for NFL purposes, but for fantasy purposes, he clearly is. I mean, it's not even arguable. We know Dak has more rushing upside once we get to the goal line for actually vulturing touchdowns. We have seen that through Dak's career so far. And at the same time, let's look up Vegas odds to lead NFL in passing. Because I can guarantee you that Dak Prescott's going to be higher than Aaron Rodgers. And if you think that you're that much better to go through and beat Las Vegas, then by all means do it. Okay, so we're pulling up right now the betting odds to lead the NFL in passing yards this year. Dak Prescott is plus 550, and then you actually have Aaron Rodgers down there at plus 1,000. So they're essentially giving you half the chance to lead the NFL in passing yards with an Aaron Rodgers compared to a Dak Prescott. And you're not going to try to tell me that Aaron Rodgers has more rushing upside than Dak Prescott. So no, Dak, for so many different reasons, is a much, much better draft pick than an Aaron Rodgers. Don't try to tell me differently. Don't try to tell me differently on that. Okay, so now let's go through. Gabriel Davis at the 1208. Devin Singletary, the 1209. And if y'all want to know who the number one leader is to lead the NFL in passing yards in terms of Vegas odds right now, and I'd say Vegas is probably smarter. I know Vegas is smarter than me. I'm way willing to admit that. Vegas is significantly smarter than I am. Probably smarter than y'all too. Just willing to put that out there. Now we are no longer drafting quarterbacks in this league, so we're only going to go through. We're only getting wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs so far. We have 4 running backs that honestly I really like this running back room, so I'm not stressing too much. You can't see it on the screen, but we have Logan Thomas at tight end as well. I think we're going to go through. We're going to get a second tight end here. Now, this doesn't accomplish much in that we still probably want to get a third tight end on this roster. So Jalen Reagor goes to the 12-12. Teresa says, you're exactly right, Mason. I was backing you up, my dude. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I'm not trying to argue who's better in real life. I never do that. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of get upset with me. Like when I go through and I say, don't draft Derrick Henry, don't draft Nick Chubb, because those are fantastic real life NFL players, but I don't care about their real life talent. I don't care about if you're starting a franchise, who do you prefer? No, I care about what they're going to do in fantasy football based on their usage and based on that talent profile combined. Okay, so now that we're back on the clock, we're just going to take Cole Beasley here. I mean, he's attached to one of the pass-happiest offenses in the NFL, going to be seeing a lot of snaps. I know a lot of people are worried that he's not going to play this season, which I will say that's definitely a valid concern. But at the same time, getting him in the 13th, that is going to be a big enough discount where we can take Cole Beasley. Let me move this over real quick. Hopefully that gets rid of that shadow. You know, that was significantly worse. What about that? Let me know if the lighting is any better or worse. That is so much worse. We'll just keep it like that. I shouldn't have done that to begin with. Okay, Tua Tagovailoa at the 1306. So we're wanting to see quarterbacks go off the board. Y'all probably are tired of hearing me say this by now. Amon-Ra St. Brown, definitely a riser. I actually saw Amon-Ra St. Brown have a pretty funny TikTok earlier today. I will say that. But regardless, let's move on. Let me show the top of the draft board real quick, just to highlight what we have done so far in this draft. So we took Dalvin, Clyde, Edwards-Helaire in the first 2 rounds. Then at the 3rd, we go CeeDee Lamb. In the 4th, we go with the Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs, Dak Prescott. We get that Dak Prescott and a CeeDee Lamb stack. Laviska Shenault, Jalen Waddle, Logan Thomas. Then we take Jalen Hurts here at the 10-11. Jalen Hurts, mainly drafting him for that rushing upside. We know he has that ceiling. Tony Pollard at the 11-02. Jonnu Smith, Cole Beasley. So from here, I don't necessarily think that we have any holes on the roster. I mean, we could find it advantageous to go out and draft another running back sometime soon. Honestly, I'm not even that worried about it. I mean, our running back 3 on this team is Josh Jacobs. Mark says, how would you trade for Christian McCaffrey? What you would have to do if you're going to trade for Christian McCaffrey is you would probably have to go to your wife and say, hey, I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to give the kid up. We're going to have to include our firstborn child in the trade for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I don't know if you've heard this by now, but Christian McCaffrey, he has access to average 29 fantasy points per game this upcoming season. We know our firstborn child, they're not going to even come close to that type of upside. So you're probably going to have to more so negotiate with your wife to just make sure you can go through and you can even send that official offer out there to your league mate. Then, of course, you're going to have to sell your league mate on it. I don't know how you're going to do that. That's more so on you. Probably going to have to throw in like a Mike Evans. You're probably going to have to throw in a player like a Travis Etienne as well. You're going to have to throw a ton of stuff in there. Probably impossible to trade for Christian McCaffrey, to be completely honest. Like if I had the 101 in a standard redraft league where, I mean, it's a shallow starting lineup, it's a shallow bench, I don't even know what someone could offer me for Christian McCaffrey, to be honest. Okay, so, I mean, Randall Cobb goes at the 1401. So I've said now that we have seen the usage that Philip Lindsay is going to have, I don't necessarily think we can be taking David Johnson until about this range. I think once we get to the 14th round, that's going to be a fair pick for David Johnson. Let's remember, he was going in the 10th a while ago, which was a horrendous draft pick. If I go through my exposures, y'all see that I very rarely have drafted David Johnson. I think the only time we have taken him is when he falls to the middle of the 14th round. Okay. So T.Y. Hilton, Randall Cobb. And guys, if you have yet to go down there, subscribe to the channel. What are you waiting on? Subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell. We are live streaming every single night. We're going to try to get 4 drafts going tonight. Let's get the stream over 525 likes, and we'll get 4 drafts going. Okay, KJ Hamler at the 1403. KJ Hamler continuing to rise in drafts. J.D. McKissick at the 1404. Okay, so let's pull this back up. Let's see what's available because, so Baker Mayfield is still available. Is there any chance that he goes off? He's actually fallen in ADP quite a bit. If y'all remember, I believe his ADP was like in the high 130s just a few weeks ago. So I think that's a fair fall, to be honest. I mean, I wasn't drafting Baker Mayfield whatsoever. If he falls to like the 15th more often, we probably will start to consider to draft Baker. With the Ryan Fitzpatrick at the QB 21, obviously not interested in him, hoping that he goes though. And we also have 2 teams here with only 1 quarterback in Senior Skittles. He does not have any stacks with Washington. Clutch Cow, on the other hand, still does not have any stacks with Washington. So probably don't get to see Ryan Fitzpatrick go off before our next pick. So we're talking running back, receiver, tight end. We still want a second tight end. I don't know if we just want to wait and get someone really late like a Zach Ertz, because we do need to bring some more wide receivers in. This is a very weak receiver room, to be honest. We only have Lamb, Chase, Shenault, Waddle, Beasley. I did not realize how weak this receiver room is. We may only be able to draft 2 tight ends. I think we made a massive mistake drafting Jonnu Smith. Looking back on it, we made a mistake drafting Jonnu. That was really bad. Let's go back and let's look at, after we make a few wide receiver selections here, let's just take a Jamison Crowder. We're just looking for guys running snaps. He's going to be running the slot. We just need guys that are going to be running routes, getting targets, because we do not have any receivers to feel confident about. And you have to start 3 wide receivers every week, and it's a best ball format as well. I think we still have to go receiver. I know running back and tight end are the best values. We're reaching 11 picks on a receiver here, but because we're going to have to draft another running back regardless. No, we're going to go Hunter Henry. We're going Diamond Brown. God dang it. Very bad pick. Very bad pick. If a Cole Kmet fell to us, we probably would have gone to Cole Kmet there. Okay, let me go through. Let's figure out exactly what went wrong with this draft, because we put ourselves in a very bad situation at receiver that we need to make sure we're avoiding in the future. So going through, fine with the Dalvin. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe our issue would have just been solved if instead of going with the CEH, we just ended up taking Keenan Allen. But I'm not even going to look at the top of the draft. I think we're fine here. Fine with getting Josh Jacobs. Odell Beckham Jr. is not solving our problems. So coming down, I think another thing that we could look at is this Jalen Hurts selection. We take Jalen Hurts over Henry Ruggs. That could have potentially been a mistake when we could have had the luxury of getting a receiver. Getting another quarterback down here at the end of the 16th. Maybe someone like a Daniel Jones by chance, and we do have Dak Prescott already, so we're not looking for someone that needs to carry us at quarterback. And if we go back to this Jonnu Smith pick, the mistake was taking Jonnu in the first place. We should have gone back-to-back receiver here. Back-to-back receiver, and then we could have gone with the tight end over Diami Brown. Because what's the real difference between a Jonnu Smith and the other tight ends that were available there? Really small compared to someone like an AJ Green versus a Diami Brown. God, that was a bad mistake on our part. That was a bad mistake. Baca says having T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk go right before your 4th round pick was brutal. Yeah, you know how much I would have preferred to have T. Higgins there. I would have loved to get T. Higgins. Okay, so we have that run on running backs. We're still going to have to get another running back on this team. I think we have to get 2 more receivers and 1 more running back. If this was a tournament style, I wouldn't be drafting another running back. But here I think we need a 5th. Fallon says, Mason, what do you think of the team at the 103? Let me go through. Let's scroll up, show the 103. At the 103, you go Kamara, Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, Deontay Johnson. It is intriguing to take Deontay Johnson over Jamar Chase here. I mean, that's a pick that I've been seeing more and more. I'm just not a massive fan of Deontay Johnson. I mean, I'm not willing to go out there and put that much of a bet on a Ben Roethlisberger being able to lead this offense to just being a high volume offense, to be honest. Then we go with the Travis Etienne at the 503, Antonio Brown, Tyler Boyd, Zach Moss. I like the Zach Moss pick. For a second, I had to think, would we prefer someone like a Waddle there? But once you have Zach Moss, Ronald Jones go, I think that, yeah, it dries up so much at running back. That was going to be the last guy in the tier. Really like that Zach Moss pick. Trey Lance, get the stack in there with a George Kittle. Do so at a great value. Terrace Marshall, Kenyon Drake, Kirk Cousins. And you're just loaded up on receiver, and you have those running backs at the top. I definitely like that build. I really like that build. Mark says, would you accept Godwin and Derrick Henry for Christian McCaffrey? So it's going to depend mainly on the league settings that you're in. This is something that I talk a lot about in the draft guide and how you want to be adjusting for your league settings with your roster construction. So I also do this on Patreon. I'm sure a million of y'all already know this by now, but on Patreon, what I do through the majority of my day is I'm actually going through and breaking down your fantasy football teams. When you join Patreon, you just shoot me a DM, say, hey Mason, I want my team broken down. And I'm happy to go through and make a podcast just for you, going through, breaking down your draft, breaking down your team, talking about what I would do for the future. A lot of teams that have been sent to me over on Patreon as of late have been a ridiculously shallow format where it'll be like, oh, this is a team that is starting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex, and they only have 5 bench spots in an 8-team league. And I'm looking at it going, man, you know what? Your waiver wire options are going to be so loaded that literally the only thing that we care about is studs. Every single trade that we look to make, we're trying to get rid of 2 players. We're trying to get 1 in return. So if it's a league like that, you need Christian McCaffrey. Now, if it's a league on the other end of the spectrum, which we'll get to in 1 second, we'll try to figure out where we're going to go here. The question is, what gives us more points throughout the season? A Zach Ertz or another receiver? Running back, you know what? We're going to take Ramondre Stevenson here. The team behind us only has 4 running backs as well. So let's take Ramondre Stevenson. 4 touchdowns through 2 preseason games so far. Obviously, that isn't everything, but this is a player I was drafting before the preseason. I mean, I liked him before the preseason. So if he's going out and balling like that, might as well just continue to draft him. So let's get him there at the 16-11. Rumrays, he has CMC, Miles Sanders, Chase Edmonds. Yeah, so he went with another running back. So possibly we wouldn't have had a Stevenson falling to us. So now we just have to figure out what gives us more, running back or tight end. I mean, wide receiver or tight end. Because we're definitely going at least 1 more receiver. But I don't know if we need to be going with another tight end. You know, Logan Thomas is going to be out there running so many routes that I think we're probably fine at tight end. The thing is, we have to figure this out now because I'm not going to want a tight end in the 18th round. It's either Zach Ertz here or never. Let's take double receivers. Let's take double receivers. Let's get a Josh Palmer in here, someone that we have not drafted whatsoever. He looks like he's the clear wide receiver 3. on the Los Angeles Chargers right now. So let's get to Josh Palmer, but my God, that was frustrating. And going back to the trade, saying a Derrick Henry, Chris Godwin, or Christian McCaffrey. So we've already discussed a very shallow format. They're just preferring a Christian McCaffrey. But if you're playing in like a 14-team league or a 12-team league where you start 3 receivers in multiple flex spots, there I think the package becomes a lot more appealing because the replacement level player that's going to be available on the waiver wire all of a sudden dramatically goes down, where roster spots on your team are going to be less valuable. And at the same time, you're just going to be looking at a depleted roster overall. So the difference in points per game that you would get by adding 2 players in that situation would possibly outweigh Christian McCaffrey. So I would say that it's close, but knowing that you're most likely playing in a shallow 2021 redraft format, we're going to go Christian McCaffrey regardless. Zachary says, straight up killed this draft. Let me go through. Let's look at Zachary's team here. Did Zachary get in, or was he talking about our team? I'm assuming he got in because my team's horrible. Yes. So let's talk about Zachary's team. So he goes Barkley, Taylor, Dobbins, Godwin, Lamar. Okay, so I'm assuming, yeah, he's only going to draft 2 quarterbacks here. He has the elite running backs to build around at the very top, and then he goes a wide receiver depth, Melvin Gordon as his 4th running back. I'm wondering if he's done at running back after he takes Gordon. I'm not saying there's a correct answer to that. I think you possibly could take another one. You could possibly be done. Receiver, let's look at his receiver room because obviously he's elite everywhere. He gets 3 tight ends that are all going to have roles. He has Godwin, Debo, Juju, Fuller, Hollywood, Nelson Aguilar, T.Y. Hilton, John Brown. I'd imagine he probably goes back-to-back receiver here. But yeah, man, that is a fantastic team. That is a fantastic team. Clutch Cow says, can you check out Team 4, Mason? Yes, sir. Let me go through and let's check out Team 4. Okay, so Team 4 for Clutch Cow. Adams, Harris, A-Rob, Henderson, Odell, Mike Williams. See, it's just so gross seeing Odell here, but the problem is it's just that tier drop-off. I mean, the tier drop-off, that's why I've been drafting Jacobs, ETN a lot, is because I'm not willing to take Odell and Claypool over him. So I'll say the Odell pick's gross, but you have no option. I've taken Odell in the 5th a ton on my own drafts as well. You get Mike Williams here at the 609. Don't like that Mike Williams pick that much. I do kind of prefer these receivers. Aaron Rodgers, Brandon Cooks. So you get the Rodgers stack up there with the Davante Adams. I'd say Rodgers is a little early here. We got him in the 8th in the last draft from the 103. So I've actually seen Rodgers fall. I mean, I got him in the 8th in another draft I did earlier today with a Davante Adams build as well. So I don't love the idea of going out there and reaching on him when you still have a Russell Wilson available. I probably would rather get another receiver here. Like if you get a Cortland Sutton and still can possibly get Rodgers instead of Brandon Cooks. So Marvin Jones, Michael Thomas. This is the exact range where I think Michael Thomas should fall. Jamal Williams, Devin Singletary, Evan Ingram, Tyrell Williams, Hunter Henry, Ben Roethlisberger. I'm trying to think about Roethlisberger. Yeah, no, that's the right pick for Roethlisberger. I mean, after Darnold, you don't know. So I like that build. I mean, this is what it comes to in these drafts where you have to start 3 wide receivers. I mean, it gets very gross in the 5th round. Like the 5th round is a complete dead zone where there's not that much different between an Odell Beckham Jr. there and the other receivers that you were getting in the 6th and the 7th, which is why I found myself, once we had a Josh Jacobs and a Travis Etienne, falling below the tier receivers like a Chris Godwin. That's why I'm finding myself drafting them a lot because you see that Odell Beckham Jr. pick there and it's disgusting, but you can't do anything about it. Okay, Jack from the 2 says, liked the stream, love your content. My man, thank you so much for coming out, dropping that like on the live stream. If we hit 525 likes tonight, my dudes, we're going to be doing 4 drafts. Now, we're going to be doing at least 1 more draft after this, regardless of what happens. So make sure if y'all want to just have this stream going for a while, drop that like. We got a ridiculous amount of likes yesterday when I went out there and put that stream goal. So I know we have it in us. We should easily be able to hit that. Okay, now let's pull this back up. Our last pick is going to be a receiver. We're just looking for someone that's going to be running routes, someone that could see some spike weeks. Because this receiver room is no bueno. I think our running backs are very strong. We have Dalvin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson. Quarterback, I think we're pretty strong at as well. Tight end, we're just weak at running back and wide receiver and tight end. I think we made a couple mistakes in this draft that we need to make sure we kind of tighten up before we get to the $50, $100 leagues. Okay, so this pick, do we just take Quez Watkins as our first guy? No, we're not taking Quez Watkins. Who am I kidding? I'm not taking Quez Watkins. We'll take Dwayne Eskridge way before we take Quez Watkins. Okay, Quez Watkins would have made sense with the Jalen Hurts build, but regardless, let's go through and let's switch this over And my dudes, we're going to get a $50 draft going right now. So let me get this set up for everybody, because I promise y'all we're either getting a $50 or $100 draft going. So you know what? We have 400 people out here. Let me know. Drop a like if y'all want a $100 draft instead of a $50 draft. Drop a like if y'all want that. If we get over 300 likes real quick, that will tell me that we want the $100 draft. And we'll get another $5 draft going depending on how many people are in the live stream later and how many likes we get on the stream. It's just more so, guys, I'm streaming every single night, so I kind of have to pick and choose when we're doing the 4 or 5 draft nights where it's literally like a marathon where my voice is just getting destroyed, because I record podcasts all day. I make videos all day. I do these live streams at night, and it sounds like I'm being the biggest baby on the planet, but I promise you my voice dies. So it sounds like an ass thing when I say we need this amount of people out here for me to go through and do another draft, but it's taxing. It is taxing. Okay. So it looks like a lot of y'all want the $50 draft. So let me get this going and get a $50 draft going right now. Okay. So let's just grab that link. I'm going to send it out. It's just going to say $50 draft here. $50 draft here. We'll pull this over. I'd imagine the $50 draft gets filled relatively soon. And a big thing about those $100 drafts is they feel slow. Like a couple times ago when we did a $100 draft, I was kind of worried that it was going to possibly not fill because we had to sit around for like 3 or 4 minutes. These $50 drafts, they'll fill. I mean, we don't have to worry about them whatsoever. A lot of people want to get in the $50 drafts. And it looked like it filled pretty slow. So I'm sure that a lot of y'all had a chance to get in if y'all wanted. The 103, let's go. And we have Top Dog out here again. Top Dog literally only comes out to the drafts whenever we're doing a high stakes league. And obviously as the badge tier, an experienced drafter. So that's scary, but it is what it is. Let's go through. Let's go up against them. And my man, hey, let me know in the chat, who is Top Dog coming out challenging us in these $50 and $100 drafts? Let me know. Let me know. Okay, so the 103, I'm just so happy about this. And I know, so this kind of shows you exactly how confident I am with a Davante Adams at the 103. The fact that this is a $50 league, guys. This is a $50 league. There's $500 in the pot. I mean, there's $600 in the pot right here. $600 in the pot, and I'm going to be taking Davante Adams at the 103. That's how confident I am with it. That is how confident. Mike says, what does the shield mean? The shield means you're an experienced drafter. I don't know how many drafts you actually have to do to get the shield. I have no idea how I have not gotten the shield by now. Literally no idea. I'm kind of pissed about it, to be honest. Anyway, let's go get a Davante Adams and let's get this draft going. I'm excited about this. I'm very excited. Oh, it seems like we only draft at top draft positions now. We only draft at the top draft positions. This is life, guys. I mean, I told y'all I did 2 drafts earlier today where I got the 103 and the 101. In this stream so far, we got the 103, the 102, the 103. We're living big here. We're living big. Let's see where Top Dog decides to go with this pick. Probably going to see, I'm going to guess Alvin Kamara. I'm guessing Alvin Kamara. Yeah, so he goes Kamara. I think I kind of know what Top Dog's going to be doing here. I'm not going to say it out loud just because I don't want to be an ass on the stream. Aaron says 500 drafts or 5,000 in wins. Okay, so we should, at least I'm hoping that we get that. We'll have that badge next season, because then we'll have our winnings. So I'm very much hoping that we get $5,000 in wins. I mean, we're putting $6,000 into these drafts. So if we don't come away with $5,000 in wins, that's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be really embarrassing, guys, if I don't have that badge next year. It's going to be really embarrassing. I'll tell you that. Okay, so we got a lot of running backs going off. Looks like this could be a running back heavy draft to start us off. Tyreek Hill at the 110. And also, if y'all are enjoying the live stream, guys, make sure you drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, hit the bell next to the subscribe button, because we do these every single night. Literally, I'm live streaming every single night with real money fantasy football drafts until we get to the season. So if you want to get in a draft with me, make sure you are coming out to these live streams. Make sure you hit that bell because I promise you, YouTube's not going to recommend this stream every single time. A lot of the times, if you don't subscribe, if you don't hit the bell, you're probably not going to see it again. Okay, so Tyreek, Stephon Diggs, the 110, 112, then some more running backs. Calvin Ridley all the way at the 205. I love that Calvin Ridley value. We used to be able to get Calvin Ridley at the 204, the 205 consistently, but that very rarely happens now. Now, the majority of the time, you actually see Calvin Ridley going at the 1-2 turn. It's kind of rare to see him fall to the 204. Okay, so let's pull this back up. Let's look at where we are going to be going. I'm going to guess. Actually, can I guess? I'm guessing this is... No, I'm not going to guess because I don't want to be an ass about it. Also, we have a player between us. So if I guess something... Yeah, he goes with the Najee Harris. Okay. He goes Najee. He takes the last running back in that tier. See where Lithium decides to take his pick. Eli says, which is better for fantasy, Hill or Stephon Diggs? I actually have an entire I have hundreds of pages that I've actually written about my rankings in depth. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's a 2021 fantasy football draft guide. And unlike other people, I'm not selling my draft guide for $30, $50, $70, $90. Instead, I'm actually going through and partnering with Underdog Fantasy, where they are sponsoring our 2021 draft guide. And that all you have to do is make a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. With promo code FLOCK, you get all of my updated rankings leading up all the way to the season. They add $25 to your account when you sign up. This is where we are drafting right now, my dudes. And on top of all this, you get our 2021 draft guide, our 2021 Dynasty Rookie draft guide, hundreds of pages of information for you being willing to go out and do $10 worth of fantasy drafts. It's you going and playing $10 worth of fantasy leagues. You're getting all of that. And it helps this channel tremendously, my dudes. So if you want those rankings, you don't ever have to ask me a rankings question in the chat. All you have to do is go down there, join the flock on Underdog Fantasy. Just make sure you use promo code FLOCK. Okay, so Terry McLaurin at the 301. So love seeing McLaurin go. J.K. Dobbins goes, I'm not considering a running back here. We're going to continue to go receiver. We're going to start this draft off extremely heavy at the receiver position. This is something that I did earlier today, drafting from the 103. I think it was almost this exact same start, to be honest. It was in a tournament, so it was a little more appealing, but we're going to punt running back entirely. Now, keep in mind, this is a best ball format where you have to start 3 receivers on a week-to-week basis, regardless. So, starting Adams, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb. Very excited about this. Maybe we can... Do y'all think I could hit 500 drafts? Do y'all think I could hit 500 drafts and get that badge before the season starts? That would be crazy. If I could do that, I could just start knocking out those puppy drafts. I've been trying to get in a few of those puppy leagues as of late. I could probably get in 500. I could probably get in 500 drafts, to be honest. Maybe that's a goal I can set for myself. I'll also say, guys, if you do not know by now that when you do sign up for Underdog Fantasy, you get all those things as well. You get entered into coming down to Tampa, Florida, going to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me, going to the Florida Flock meetup, all after sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. All we need is 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. And if all that happens, we are going to do a 24-hour live stream of me going through and just drafting 24 hours straight. So let's get that going. Y'all don't know how much I want to do that just because I want to kind of challenge myself. And I think it would be so cool if I said that I could. I could say that I did that. So please make sure y'all are using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And also, if y'all like these streams and y'all want them to continue next year, this partnership's got to go well. So make sure y'all are doing that. Make sure y'all are. Now, Godwin at the 311. After we go 3 wide receivers heavy, it's no secret. We want to see wide receivers go off the board. We want to see wide receivers get drafted. So we got a Chris Carson going at the 312. And it's really nice starting wide receiver heavy in those tournaments because the public rooms that you're going to find, they are very, very wide receiver heavy, to be completely honest. We're usually in those public rooms, if you have a wide receiver heavy start like this, you're going to have the room like pushed down to Mahomes, pushed down to Swift. I've seen Swift. I've actually drafted Swift at the end of the 4th round when we go wide receiver heavy like this to start. Now, in a private draft like this, I think that's a little less likely because more people are willing to go out there and draft those running backs. But in a league like this, I think that I really like getting the wide receivers out the gate. Now, if we would have had a Najee Harris, a Joe Mixon, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire falling to us in the second, we would have taken them. I just simply can't take Dobbins over A.J. Brown. That would have never happened. David says, I've never gone into my real life draft feeling more confident than I have this year, thanks to Mason and the Underdog drafts. My man, thank you so much for that nice statement. Also, guys, how many people in this live stream right now have gotten our 2021 fantasy football draft guide just by making that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy? Like right now, because I know literally when I go through and I give that little spiel, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't believe me. I would think that it was fake. So please, right now in the live chat, guys, let people know this is not fake. Let them know that you got the 2021 draft guide. Just spam, I got the guide, or I got the draft guide or something. Let them know that it's not fake, because I know it sounds like it is, but I promise you it's real. I promise you it's real, my dudes. Okay. And also let them know that that guide is hundreds and hundreds of pages. Okay, so DJ Moore. So we're probably going to have to draft a receiver here, to be honest. We're going to have to draft a receiver. I think we have to draft a receiver, to be honest. We're going 4 receivers out the gate. Now, keep in mind, this is a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers and you have the flex and it's a best ball setting. So we're going to get a receiver here. I know a lot of people are going to hate it. Okay, so Cooper Kupp goes. But the thing is, there are 2 wide receivers that I have in our last tier. These teams at the end, I mean, just Dak in particular, he has to really draft the receivers here or he's going to get so behind the 8 ball in a league like this. Foster says, what is the turnaround on getting the guide? So with getting the guide, when you use promo code FLOCK and Underdog Fantasy, all you need to do is shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord. Like we have said so many times before, you shoot me that DM. And if you do that right now, I get you the draft guide tonight after we live stream. I stay up hours after we live stream just sending out those draft guides. And I also go through and I check all those platforms. I don't want to say hourly, but at least every other hour, where the turnaround for y'all to get the draft guide is anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours. I would be very surprised if anybody in here, it took them longer than 3 hours to get the guide. All you have to do is shoot me a DM anywhere with your email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. That way I can confirm that you did sign up with promo code FLOCK. Okay. So let's go through Josh Allen at the 411. Adam Thielen at the 412. So I know this is risky. I know going 4 wide receivers out the gate, not a lot of people are going to like it, but we're rolling with it, okay? When we have a T. Higgins falling to us at the 410, I'm taking T. Higgins, especially in this league format. I am completely fine with that selection. And before y'all go out there, tell me how stupid I am. At least wait until the end of the draft, and let's see how it turned out. Let's see how this draft turned out. So Chase Claypool going at the 501. So I promise you guys, when teams like this, like when Danny V and I have gone through and kind of monopolized the receiver position, and Lithia may kind of do the same thing here, you're going to see a lot of people start to reach on receivers. So we're going to go draft someone that I swear to God we draft in every single draft. Now, I will say we would take a Jamar Chase here if it wasn't for the fact that we already have 4 receivers, but I think at some point we have to start taking running backs that are going to get touches. So if this was a tournament setting, I go with an ETN because he has a higher ceiling. Or if this was a full PPR league, we go with an ETN because he's going to get you more usage in the receiving game. But we're just going to take Josh Jacobs, someone that we know is going to have those guaranteed touches. Hated him when his price was more. But we're going to get Josh Jacobs as our first running back there at the 503. Yeah, I think that possibly we could have looked to go with, if this was a tournament, and I'm not lying about this, I'm being 100% genuine. If this was one of those tournaments on Underdog where we're trying to win $1 million or we're trying to win $200,000, there we're taking Jamar Chase here. And I'm being completely honest about that. And then we're probably just trying to piece together handcuff high upside running backs later on. But in a 12-team private draft like this, your floor actually matters. I don't want to say as much as your ceiling, but it definitely matters a lot more than it does in the tournaments. So yeah, we're going to go with a Josh Jacobs. And don't call me a Josh Jacobs guy. Don't call me. Yui says, the Bengals offensive coordinator said Higgins will have a massive role. What are your thoughts? My man, I'll say, yeah, we know that Higgins is going to have a massive role. I've been on the train for so long now saying, if y'all remember, Jamar Chase used to go around ahead of T. Higgins, which was the most ridiculous thing ever. I've been screaming that Higgins is a fantastic value in drafts. If you look at the games that he started alongside Joe Burrow, not just the games that they played in together, but more importantly, they both started, you actually had T. Higgins as a top 10 receiver on a per game basis last year. That is crazy to think about. He was 21 years old. He was a rookie. So T. Higgins, I mean, I love him. He is going to be the wide receiver 1 this year over Jamar Chase. We have been on that train. I'm happy that more people are kind of waking up to it. Kyler Murray goes to the 508. He goes to the DeAndre Hopkins owner. You do have to like getting the DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray stack. Lucas says, this is the Mason draft favorites in Adams, Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, and Josh Jacobs. Some of those are true. Some of them are not. I'll say that. You know, Davante Adams is my favorite. I mean, I'm going to have like 25 to 30% of my teams. And keep in mind, I'm drafting hundreds of teams. So that's a very large number with a Davante Adams. And I'm completely fine with it. And I'm honestly excited about it, to be honest. Okay, Little Papa Gaming says, how is Teams 9 start? Okay, first off, my man, I recently saw that you decided to join the flock on Patreon. Thank you so much for joining the flock on Patreon. I need to give you literally the biggest thank you possible in that Patreon support is literally what allows me to go through and do these live streams every night, make the videos during the day, make the podcast during the day, and do all that fantasy football research is because all that support on Patreon that you just decided to join. So thank you so much, my man, for joining the flock. Please shoot me a DM over there, and I'm going to be really happy to get you set up with everything after this live stream. So thank you again for that. And yeah, let's dive into your team here, which is the 9th team in this league. And here you went Aaron Jones, Darrell Henderson at running back, and then wide receiver, Calvin Ridley. Love the Ridley pick. Love the Amari pick. Odell at the 509. This is what I've been saying before. I mean, we said this in the last draft. Getting an Odell and Robbie Anderson here, it looks gross, but the problem is this is just a dead zone at receiver where you're kind of forced to go receiver, to be completely honest. So I actually kind of like it. I like the build so far. I mean, obviously you're going to need to go through and try to get a quarterback stack and possibly a Dak Prescott if he falls to the late 7th. It's going to depend if we decide to take Dak here though. So let's figure that out. Okay. So Top Dog is on the clock. I'm willing to bet my entire life savings that this is a wide receiver right here. So Top Dog did go with Kyle Pitts and George Kittle. This is an experienced drafter as well. He's done either 500 drafts or has had 5,000 in winnings. At least that's what someone in the live chat said. So it is intriguing going with a Kittle and a Kyle Pitts. Personally, I can't. Y'all know my opinion on Kyle Pitts. I could not get behind that. Okay, so now I think we possibly go with. We're going to go with one of two players. It just depends on who falls. So Raheem Mostert goes here. I'm trying to think, my dudes. So we're going to go with the Dak. If we take a Dak Prescott, we get the stack in with CeeDee Lamb. At the same time, we can roster 6 running backs on this team. We have guaranteed touches already with Josh Jacobs. It's a $50 draft, so it's very high pressure. We're going to go with the Dak Prescott here at the 610. High pressure pick, but let's do it. Let's get that Dallas Cowboys stack in here with the CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott combination. Big thing is Danny V is kind of the wild card here because he can do a multitude of things, having the build, CMC, and then this wide receiver core. And I'm sorry if I'm going quiet right now, guys, but this is a stressful situation. I mean, being on the turn here is very stressful. Foster says, how come the draft guide has a 30-page chapter on why I should take Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round? I am so pissed, Foster, that you brought that up. Literally, that 30-page chapter on why you need to be drafting Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round in the draft guide was only for the people who got the draft guide. I've been telling everybody on the channel, everybody who's not getting the draft guide, not to draft Kyle Pitts so all of us can take advantage and we can get him in the 3rd round. Are you kidding me? You just ruined it. There's no reason to get the draft guide now. Now, there's going to be reason to bring in our wide receiver 5 in Laviska Shenault. Let's continue to take that value in a best ball format, guys that are going to spike into our starting lineup. Let's get Laviska there. And I know a lot of people are going to give me some hate for it, but guys, it's a $50 draft. I'm willing to go out there. I'm willing to say that's how confident I am in the strategy we are doing right now. Scott says, how do we let you know we use code FLOCK? All you have to do is shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord, literally anything. Just check the description of the video. And all you have to do is send me the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. You don't even have to send me any screenshots or anything. As long as you give me that email, we should be good. Okay, Michael Gallup, 705. Michael Carter at the 704. JN is in this draft. I did not even notice that JN was in here. So let's go through. Let's kind of recap JN's draft so far. He goes Kelsey. Really love the Kelsey pick. He takes Mahomes in the third, man. I think you need to go with a receiver here over Mahomes. I'm going to Robert Woods and Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin. I know that you're getting the stack going in with a Travis Kelsey and a Patrick Mahomes in the third round. I just can't get behind it. I think that the price you're paying there compared to those other quarterbacks is just so damn high. Javonte in the fifth, I'm fine with it. This is just a dead zone where you can't blame anybody for taking any of the picks here. After Travis Etienne, Jamar Chase, Jacobs go off the board, I could see this going in any order whatsoever. Trey Sermon at the 606. I really don't like that pick, to be completely honest. I think you kind of need to go with the receiver there. I mean, you're going to see that a lot of these teams that waited on receiver, they are going to be kind of going through it. The problem is you have to start 3, and it's a best ball format. So these receivers are going to be very valuable, where I think the problem with JN's draft so far was probably going with the Trey Sermon instead of going in getting a Debo, and Antonio Brown, a Cortland Sutton, a Tyler Boyd, Kenny Golladay, Laviska Shenault, your favorite receiver out of that group. Because now I think that you're just going to have to reach a little bit. I think you're just going to have to reach a little bit in the coming rounds. Okay, so James Robinson, Will Fuller start the eighth round off. So this Justin Herbert selection goes to a team that does not have either Keenan Allen or Will Fuller, but they do have Austin Eckler. And I actually think Eckler is one of those running backs that you can stack with your quarterback, given the fact that he is going to get a ton of usage in the receiving game. Now Russell Wilson goes to the 803. I'm pissed that I haven't drafted more Russell Wilson, because Wilson in the 8th round is just a fantastic value. I mean, it's literally some of the best value you can get. Fantasy Junkie says, will Zeke have a breakout season? Are you trolling? Are you trolling with that question right now? Do you know who Ezekiel Elliott is? You're asking me if he's going to have a breakout season? You're asking if Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a breakout season. What has Ezekiel Elliott not done to break out so far? Are you kidding me right now, my man? Okay. Also, guys, go down there, drop a like on the live stream if you have not already. Subscribe to the channel. We're on the grind to 40,000 subscribers. I initially wanted to get there before the season started. Don't know if that's still possible, but it would be fantastic regardless. Okay, so now Top Dog back on the clock. I'd imagine he goes receiver. Yeah, so he goes Brandon Cooks. Okay, so Lithium up. He does not have a quarterback or a tight end so far. We do not have a tight end, so possibly we could both be going for Logan Thomas here. So let's check out the teams after us, trying to figure out what they're going to do. So A.J. Dillon goes. I'm trying to figure out if we go Logan Thomas or if we go with a running back. Honestly, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Waddle are significantly ahead of their ADP. And if we're just going to get Logan Thomas, we're going to get our first tight end coming in here. This is going to give us the small chance that we could potentially only have to take 2 tight ends with this team, which could help us out. So let's just go with Logan Thomas here at the 810. Not a pick that I'm very confident in, but I think that we can make it. Okay, Ronald Jones goes to the 811. Surprised to see a team only with 3 receivers pass on these receivers right here. I'm honestly surprised to see that. Corey Davis at 812, ahead of both Darnell Mooney and Jalen Waddle. That is very intriguing. Okay, so Melvin Gordon goes. I don't think we were looking at a quarterback. It's essentially are we willing to reach around on Zach Moss according to his ADP? I think we kind of have to. We put ourselves in that position. Obviously, Zach Moss going to have a role every single week in the NFL's a top 5 NFL offense. So yeah, we're going to go Zach Moss as our running back 2 here. So let me show off our build. I honestly really like this team considering the format. So we have Adams, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, and Laviska Shenault as our 5 receivers. We have an elite quarterback in Dak Prescott that stacks with the CeeDee Lamb, who we got in the 3rd round. At running back so far, we are extremely weak with both Josh Jacobs and Zach Moss. But like I said, obviously, You have to kind of pick and choose if we want to completely dominate the receiver position. We are going to be weak somewhere else, but I think we have some running backs that we can get some guaranteed touches in here. And at the same time, we probably are going to have to roster 6 running backs in this build. We are rostering 6 running backs in this build. Sean says he would have taken Ronald Jones over Thomas. A big thing is I'm actually completely fine with how that went between Logan Thomas and Zach Moss, because when I was sitting there thinking, my thought process was, what was the likelihood that we actually had Danny V doubling up on running back and taking both Ronald Jones and Zach Moss? I honestly did not expect Melvin Gordon to go before Moss. And at the same time, I did not expect just Dak to go with the running back whatsoever. I thought that he was clearly, if I were him, I was clearly going to go 2 receivers. So it is intriguing that I'm completely fine how it worked out. There's no real difference for me between a Zach Moss and a Ronald Jones, now that we clearly see that Giovanni Bernard is playing on 3rd downs for that team. So I think a Zach Moss there at the 903, I'm completely fine with. But the problem is, it could have gone really sour. Like, if this pick was Zach Moss instead, I think we probably would have taken a receiver. Or you know what I would have done instead? I probably would have taken a tight end and hated myself later on, just thinking that a tight end would have unlocked us an extra roster spot later on. But it would have been a bad pick. Now let's check out the experienced drafter out of us. Top Dog is in here just trolling, isn't he? Is Top Dog like a millionaire or something, and he's willing to just hop in a draft and throw away $50? He goes Kittle, Kyle Pitts, and Tyler Higbee. He has 3 tight ends in this build. This is not a tournament style. This is just a regular 12-team league. This is a $50 draft. I don't want to say that's a donation to the pot, but taking Higbee there over a receiver, it seems reckless. I know Higbee's great according to ADP, but I don't understand that whatsoever. I don't understand that at all. Please let me know in the chat what's going on. Mr. Hackman saying that we should have gone with Michael Gallup over Laviska Shenault. I agree with you. Looking back on it, that was a mistake on me. I wasn't paying attention enough. I think that's a great point that you made. Great point that you made. I should have gone with Michael Gallup over Laviska Shenault to get the double stack with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, 2 wide receivers in the same tier. So we maybe can get Laviska Shenault over Michael Gallup when we don't have a Dak Prescott. But if we're ever going to draft Michael Gallup over Laviska Shenault, we need to be doing it on the team that we took Dak Prescott. So it's a great point. I completely agree with you. I think I made that mistake. Okay, so now let's go through. Let's look at where we are going to be picking. Now, this is kind of what I hoped was going to happen when we load up on the receivers early on and kind of create the need later on in the draft, that we can get some of these other players sliding up to us. So we are 3 picks away, so I don't want to speak too soon. But we're going to have an option at another elite quarterback if we would like the potential stacks that we could have. All right, Tom Brady, I'm not going to be too intrigued in whatsoever, to be completely honest. Trey Lance could be intriguing because you're more so betting on the rushing upside. You don't necessarily need a stack with Trey Lance. Stafford, not too interested. Burrow, we could end up bringing in with a T. Higgins. We'd obviously get a running back as well. But yeah, you see these receivers going off. So Top Dog does bring in Matthew Stafford. I guess he is getting that stack in there with Tyler Higbee. Maybe he also took Robert Woods early in the draft. I wasn't paying attention. Guys, if y'all want another draft after this one, let's make sure we get this live stream over 500 likes. We can easily do that. Let's get this live stream over 500 likes, my dudes. Okay, so now we are back up on the clock. While quarterback's intriguing, and Tom Brady is 2 rounds behind his ADP, let's just get James Conner. Let's just get James Conner. We need a running back. James Conner is going to be someone that could have touches on a weekly basis in Arizona. He also has the ceiling if anything occurs to Chase Edmonds. He vaults up, and he is a 3-down running back in the league's best offense. So I like how we're shaping up our running back room. I like it. Now Trey Lance goes to the 10-02. Party till she saw it says Top Dog hedged his bets. If Pitts sucks, he has Higbee. Party till she saw it. He also has George Kittle. Not sure if you saw that. He has George Kittle. Obviously, if you go through and you take what you perceive to be good value with Kyle Pitts and Tyler Higbee, that's completely fine. You take them on the same team. But when you have Kittle on that same roster, that's where we have to draw the line. That's where we have to draw the line. Okay, so just Dak coming in. At this point, It's either going to be down between Burrow or running back for us. And I really hope, okay, so he goes Beasley. So we're going to probably take a... So our combination of running backs in Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss, James Conner, they're simply just not good enough, I think, to continue to pass on the running back position. And we have Dak, so we're already betting that Dak is going to be great. So I think the mistake that we made in the last draft, which was a $5 draft, love making a mistake in a $5 draft if we can learn it, for a $50 draft where we can crush. I think we made the mistake of taking 2 quarterbacks too high. So we're going to take Gus Edwards here. And another thing is, let me talk about why we take Gus Edwards versus a Tony Pollard. So if we look back at our build right now, so we look at our build where in our running back room, we only have Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss, and James Conner so far. Whereas at receiver, we have the best wide receiver room in the league, and it's not even close. Davante Adams, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault. I mean, our wide receivers are loaded. So when we go out there and we end up drafting a running back that we know we want in the 11th round, where in a team that I possibly went heavier running back earlier on in the draft, where we're more so looking for someone to jump up and provide us an elite ceiling, there we probably go with the Tony Pollard. But in this format, we already have the elite ceiling based on the receiver position. And what we're more so looking at is we're looking for trying to plug and play some volume at running back. So we're not going to get caught behind and killed in that area of the field. So when we do have a Gus Edwards coming in, this is someone that we know is going to get touches every single week in Baltimore. And he has the built-in handcuff upside if anything were to occur to a J.K. Dobbins. And then he jumps up to being a top, I want to say probably 15 running back. I don't want to say 12, probably a top 15 running back in fantasy. So yeah, I really like Gus Edwards there at the 1103 for this team build. I think we have crushed this draft, guys. I know it was like nerve-wracking going through and punting running back for so long, but I think we've gotten the volume coming in, and I think that this is good. I think we have a nice combination of floor and ceiling at running back, considering how little we invested into the position. We also have an elite quarterback in a Dak Prescott. We have a decent tight end in a Logan Thomas. That's fantastic. Okay, so now let's go through. And Sheldon says, I got the guide in seconds plus the $25. My man, thank you for showing people that the deal is true. I know that, like I said, I think if I heard someone saying on a live stream, you get our draft guide, you get $25, you get our rankings, you get our tiers, all for making a $10 deposit and be willing to play $10. You know what it is? It's literally Underdog is just so confident in their platform. They're going, you know what? If you deposit $10 and you play on Underdog Fantasy, you are going to like it so much that you're going to be wanting to play on Underdog for years. That's why they're just going, please try it. It's fantastic. We're giving you stuff to try it. We really want you to. And that's what it really comes down to. And I know it sounds too good to be true. And that's why I'm trying to place the emphasis on asking other people in the chat, hey, is this actually happening? Because it is. Deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy. Get $25 added to your account. Get my 2021 draft guide, my 2021 rankings, my 2021 Dynasty Rookie draft guide. Hundreds of pages of information for you being willing to play $10 in fantasy football drafts. You don't even have to go through and actually enter the $10 into drafts. You just get it like that. It's that simple. I mean, obviously, you are going to go do them in drafts whenever you have the time, but I definitely recommend taking advantage of it, guys. Okay, so Jayan is going through and he is catching up on receiver here, taking Jacoby Myers at the 1206, Gabriel Davis at the 1107. So now let's pull this up. And we don't have a hole on this entire team, to be honest. We don't have a hole in the entire roster. So what sucks is Trevor Lawrence would be very intriguing for this team, considering that we're getting him at a massive value. At the same time, we do have Laviska Shenault, so we would get that built-in stack. So I think Trevor Lawrence is great value here. I just don't know if we can draft him when Dak Prescott has the same bye week. I mean, they're both week 7 buys. So we are going to have to sit this one out on drafting a Trevor Lawrence, which definitely sucks. And the other quarterbacks in this range aren't even close to a Trevor Lawrence for me. So instead, we're going to be going with probably either a tight end or a receiver. You know what? We can actually go with the running back here. I'm trying to figure out if we're at this point investing too much into the running back position. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm thinking I want to draft 6 running backs here. We're not investing too much, or we're so elite at receiver that we just want to continue to get guys that can see touches on a week-to-week basis and rotate through our starting lineup. Because We know with the best ball format, we don't have to determine when he Mines is going to get his random 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. We don't have to try to figure when that is going to happen. It just will automatically slide into our lineup. Al Peterson says, this is a blast. Looking forward to the 24-hour straight drafts just for the start of the season. My man, I want to do it so bad. I really, really want to do it. Let's get 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, and let's get that going. I want to do that so bad, my man. Okay, so Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins go at the end of the 12th. Okay, so I don't even know if we want quarterbacks to go off, because who can be another quarterback that we target later on? So Matt Ryan here is intriguing. In that myth with Matt Ryan, well, yes, we don't get any stacks. I think that he does make it where we don't have to draft a second guy. I mean a third quarterback. We're not going to overthink it. Instead, I think we just get another tight end coming in here. We're just going to get Gerald Everett. Between Gerald Everett and Evan Ingram, I mean, it is going to be close. But a big thing is, if Gerald Everett is ahead of Ingram in ADP, let's just go through. Let's make sure we're continuing to diversify our portfolio. Let's just take the player who's higher in ADP, making sure that our roster construction is sound. So let's get Everett there at the 1303. Definitely a sleeper tight end coming over from Los Angeles to a situation where he's playing in a very efficient offense. And at the same time with the Gerald Everett, I mean, he was one of those players that came out in the 2017 NFL draft class. And if y'all weren't playing fantasy football, like if y'all weren't playing dynasty fantasy football and y'all weren't like really diving into draft classes back in 2017, I will fill you in. That 2017 NFL draft class was sold to be the best draft class ever at tight end. I mean, I was all in on the class as well with everybody else. I mean, that was the year you had OJ Howard, David Njoku, Evan Ingram, and you had some other guys that were a little further down like a Gerald Everett. And yeah, that was an amazing year for me to go through and just get way too excited about tight ends that never panned out to be anything. And Fantasy Dog coming out with a donation says, Cousins is the answer. First 6 games while Lance and Fields is in limbo. Draft Lance first, then Cousins. Okay, let's look up Kirk Cousins' schedule real quick. Let's figure this out. I'll say also with Lance, I think that Lance is starting by week 3. I think you're not going to have that long where you're having to cover up Lance's score. Let's look up the schedule for the Vikings. Okay, so let's see. Okay, they open up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, that is massive. Then after that, they have the Arizona Cardinals, a very soft defense. The Seattle Seahawks, pretty soft defense. Obviously, that could turn into a shootout. Then the Cleveland Browns, a tougher defense. The Detroit Lions, that's a piece of cake. The Carolina Panthers, the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, so it's actually really easy for about the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd make an argument that it's really easy until you get to week 8 for the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, so now it does suck that, I mean, after we take a player like Gerald Everett, you have Evan Ingram falling this far, obviously. I think there's a very small chance that Evan Ingram would have actually made it back to our next pick. But if Evan Ingram does, that's going to make our Gerald Everett selection look horrendous. Okay, so now we need to start getting some more receivers on this roster. Yeah, we did invest heavily at the beginning of the draft, but we still need to start getting some bodies and trying to chase those spike weeks. So Top Dog, let's go through and let's look at Top Dog's team. At quarterback, he has Stafford, Matt Ryan. Running back, Kamara, Harris, Jamal Williams. At receiver, Kupp, Brown, Gallup, Cooks, Traquan. And at tight end, Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Higbee. I think that's just a punt. Am I wrong? I think that has to be a punt. Okay, so let's go through Paris Campbell at the 1407. Adam says, Mason, if we deposit $10, do we get the draft guide for this year and for future years, or do we have to keep buying it every year? Yeah, you only get the 2021 draft guide, my man. You're not getting a $10 thing, or you're depositing $10, getting paid $25, and all of a sudden you have hundreds of pages of draft guides every year for life. No, my man. That's not happening. That's not happening. I'm sorry. Okay. So Lithium 87 here. Top dog does go with KJ Hamler. So I think we definitely want to be taking a receiver. Danny V here doesn't have a tight end yet, but Cole Kmet goes. I'm not taking Jared Cook anyway. So let's just get Randall Cobb in. So Randall Cobb is going to be our wide receiver 6. We have Adams, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, and Randall Cobb. He does line up on the same bye week of an Adams and an AJ Brown. Obviously, that isn't ideal, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Lucas says Everett pick was bad. Kmet still on the board. I definitely prefer having Gerald Everett over Cole Kmet, and Cole Kmet didn't make it back to us in the next round anyway. So I'm fine with you saying that the Gerald Everett pick may have been bad, but that's not sound logic in my opinion. Guys, let's get this live stream. Let's run up some likes here. Let's get this live stream. I will lower down the goal. I do want to get another draft going after this one. So let's do 400 likes on this live stream, and let's get another draft going after this one. We'll get a 4th draft going. Okay. So here with our next pick, I think we probably just want to continue to draft. You know what? I'm just worried we're not going to have I'm worried we're not going to have a quarterback making it back to us. So just out of fear, we're going to reach on getting a Daniel Jones. We're not necessarily expecting to use Daniel Jones weeks that often. But yeah, we're going to get a Daniel Jones at the 1503. Definitely a massive reach, but a problem is when we're not picking in the middle of the draft, we don't necessarily have the luxury of being able to go out and just wait on a player to come back. So I mean, just waiting until the end of the 16th, it is a little scary. So we'll look at the quarterbacks that would have been available, and we'll try to evaluate if the Daniel Jones pick was horrendous. But I was going to take a Tyrell Williams there at receiver, and I'm assuming that there are not going to be that many receivers with a massive fall off at the next few picks anyway. So yeah, we're just going to get a Daniel Jones there, even though it's not massive. Okay, so we have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Malcolm Brown. Okay, so JN gets Malcolm Brown. How many running backs does JN have so far? So I know he took running backs at the very top of the draft. He got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Javonte Williams, Chase Edmonds. I'm sorry, not Chase Edmonds. Traquan. I'm so dumb. Trey Sermon. So CEH, Javonte, Trey Sermon. And then Malcolm Brown as his running back 4. Oh my gosh, my man. Jan, I am sorry. You butchered this draft. I think that maybe this would be intriguing if this was like a Best Ball Mania team. But just for a 12-man league, I would be very surprised if this team wins it. Because really, yeah, you're strong at tight end and quarterback with Kelsey and Mahomes, but I think the Mahomes pick just threw it off. I mean, you have to invest so much into it where you're weak at both running back and receiver and flex. I think that's going to be hard to catch up on. Sheldon says, why do you never take Ryan Tannehill? Dude has stats and weapons. I take Tannehill, my dude. I don't know what that is about. I definitely take Ryan Tannehill. Let me look up my exposure of Ryan Tannehill real quick on another screen, and I will just let you know. Let me see exactly how much I've drafted Ryan Tannehill. Let's go to quarterbacks. So the Ryan Tannehill, I've drafted him. Okay, so it's not necessarily me passing on a Tannehill. It's more so me passing on quarterbacks in that range of the draft. I've drafted Ryan Tannehill in 5% of my leagues. That's almost the exact same percentage of Brady, Fitzmagic, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert. If we go through, sort it by entry fees, what's crazy is, okay, my highest drafted quarterback so far from a percentage basis is actually Jalen Hurts and Sam Darnold, both at 14.9%. But the highest entry fees that I have for a quarterback is someone that's actually further down the list in a Matt Ryan. So for whatever reason, I've been coming away with Matt Ryan in the higher paid leagues, which isn't an ideal thing, to be completely honest, but it is what it is. So let's pull this up real quick. And we are done at QB. We could still use another running back where we have Jacob, Zach Moss, James Conner, Gus Edwards, Naheem Hines. So we could use another running back. Not going to be reaching on one here whatsoever, though. I am fine if these guys want to take a running back. I think instead we probably get a receiver. And tight end, oh my God, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. So dumb. I'm so stupid. So we have 3 picks left. We want another running back. We have to take another receiver. Our tight ends are on the same bye. We drafted 2 tight ends on the same bye. Let's get Zach Ertz in here. We're going to get another running back and another receiver, but I really wanted 8 receivers on this team. So, oh my gosh. That was brutal. That was a really bad move by me. We should have taken Evan Ingram over Gerald Everett. That was really bad. God. I haven't made that mistake in so long either. We've been so good about avoiding that. That makes the Gerald Everett pick bad on multiple reasons, because the only reason you take Everett there is if you don't want to have to draft the 3rd tight end. So now going through taking either a running back or a receiver. We probably go running back here because the receivers are all going to be in the same range. So let's just take a Darrington Evans, take another shot that we could have for some random guy popping into our lineup. Of course, if you actually have a Derrick Henry injury, not saying Derrick Henry has to even be injured all season, but maybe just Derrick Henry suffers an injury and he's injured, let's just call it 3 weeks. Then we get 3 usable weeks from Darrington Evans. It's extremely valuable. Lil Poppy Gaming says, how does my team look? Let's go through. Let's recap his team one more time. He's at the 109, I believe. So last time we checked in, he, I believe, went through and got all these receivers. Got Rodgers at the 804. Interesting to take Rodgers. I mean, I guess you could say that it's the last quarterback in the tier, so I'm fine with it, but not in love with it. Goddard, Noah Fant. Dallas Goddard, someone that I've had to definitely back off how aggressive I've been on. I was way too high on Dallas Goddard. I have to take an L on that. Latavius Murray, Philip Lindsay. Lindsay, I'm not necessarily sure if I like getting him this early. I probably prefer going with, you know what I definitely prefer? I prefer, instead of going Dallas Goddard, Noah Fant here, I would have rather seen a running back, like instead of going with the Noah Fant, possibly get a James Conner. And then instead of a Philip Lindsay here, get Irv Smith. Like, I would prefer the combination of James Conner, Irv Smith compared to Noah Fant, Philip Lindsay. So I think that's a mistake that we can point out. And keep in mind, when I go through and I evaluate teams, I try to find mistakes. We make mistakes in our drafts. I point out the mistakes in my drafts. I just think if we're looking at teams, it's better to point out the mistakes than just talk about what went well. And then after that, I think it's fine. But I think that mistake of getting a Noah Fant and switching it with the Philip Lindsay would have made the team better. Daniel says, 101, check me out. Yes, sir. Let's check out the 101. He goes CMC, then slams receivers after, which we are used to seeing. Daniel. Are you kidding me here? This Terry McLaurin selection at the 301. Over Lamb, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson. I can't get behind it. Hate the Terry McLaurin pick. Adam Thielen, Chase Claypool, Tyler Boyd. I'm fine with this runaround. To be honest, I probably prefer Deontay over Chase Claypool. Myles Gaskin at the 701. Gaskin at the 701. Also, I'm not sure if this does anything for you here. Like, would you prefer the combination of Myles Gaskin and Corey Davis or Zach Moss and Kenny Golladay? I probably prefer Golladay and Zach Moss compared to Gaskin and Corey Davis. So that's something we would switch. I think you're wasting too many picks on QB here. If you're going to draft 2 quarterbacks, you have to make sure, if you're going to draft them this early. Okay, there were a couple of mistakes, but the main mistake that I think we see with that team is the fact that you're going out there and drafting 3 quarterbacks in the 10th, 11th, 12th rounds. I think that's just way too early, my man. Isaac coming out says, I stacked the Bolts running back and quarterback and the Bucks wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end at 12. Let's check this out. So we saw that you got Herbert and Austin Eckler earlier, but at receiver, you have Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy, Will Fuller, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, AJ Green, Alan Lazard. Interesting. I'm just trying to figure out how many roster spots you spent on certain positions. So at running back, you have Eckler, Carson, Kareem Hunt, Devin Singletary. Okay, so 5 running backs, 3 tight ends. Looks like 2 QBs. Okay, so I like that. I like that construction. I think that's a good team. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. Let's try to figure out who we are going to be going with next. So we do need, okay, we literally can only look at receiver. The receiver is going to be the only option for us here. Okay, so let's see where top dog goes. He takes a Kenneth Gainwell as his 6th running back. Dax says, wins the next redraft tonight. 102 recap. Thanks. Okay, let's look at the 102 after we make this pick, and we'll get another draft going if this live stream gets 400 likes. So if y'all want another draft, get this to 400 likes, and we'll get a $5 draft going that I can send out in the live chat for y'all to join. So Dwayne Eskridge goes, which Dwayne Eskridge would have been my pick, but now instead, let's just get Kadarius Toney. It is what it is. Let's get Kadarius Toney with our last round pick. So let's look at the 102 and the 108 real quick from Dak and the pacifier. And then we'll go through and we will set up another draft if this live stream hits 400 likes, which should be extremely easy. I'm sure it will happen in 30 seconds. Okay, so at the 102, we're going to wait till this draft ends because it's going to be, let's switch this over real quick because I'm going to have to pull up the draft board after Danny V gets his last pick in. But I think I like our team. We really just need one of those running backs to pop off and get us some random starting weeks. And then I think we're good. Okay. So now let's go back over. Let's look at that draft. Okay, so we're looking at the 102 first. Then we're going to go to the 108. So we have Dalvin, Dobbins, Rojo, Xavier Jones, Ramondre Stevenson at running back. So 5 running backs. I think you got them at reasonable prices. I'm fine with it. Darren Waller, and then I'm assuming only one other tight end, and Adam Trautman. Fine with it. I think it's definitely advantageous to only have 2 tight ends in this construction. Josh Allen at the 411. No idea what you're accomplishing by this. I mean, especially when you start 3 non-wide receivers in a row. I think instead of going with an Allen in the 4th here, you really need to be getting either an Adam Thielen or a Chase Claypool. I mean, yeah, I think that Josh Allen pick at the 411 is just way too rich. This should have been a receiver. If this was a receiver, like say instead of taking a Josh Allen here, you get an Adam Thielen, where you possibly had a reach on a receiver earlier in an Emmanuel Sanders, you can get Trey Lance. Would you prefer Josh Allen and Emmanuel Sanders or Trey Lance and Adam Thielen? I prefer Trey Lance and Adam Thielen. I think from how many picks you spent on specific positions, it was fine. The only thing that really stands out to me is that Allen pick is really bad. And the pacifier says, grade my team from the 108. Yes, sir. Let's go look at the 108. And guys, if this live stream gets over 400 likes, we will get another draft going. Let's get this over 400 likes ASAP. And then, okay, so at the 108, we got Barkley, Hopkins. Love the Hopkins pick. Woods, Julio, Kyler to stack with Hopkins. Edmonds to get the trifecta stack in there with Arizona. Juju, Thomas. I think this is a little rich for Michael Thomas in this specific format. If we were playing in a league that you actually had access to the waiver wire and at the same time we had a traditional fantasy football playoffs, then we would like the Michael Thomas selection. But the problem is in a league that, I mean, points matter just as much in week 1, week 2, week 3 as they do in weeks of 15, 16, and 17. There, Michael Thomas is going to be a little less valuable for me. And then beyond this, Kenyon Drake, like it, Pittman, Pollard, Irv Smith, Evan Ingram, Big Ben is your second quarterback, Penny, DeMarcus Robinson, Watson. I hate the Watson pick. The Watson pick accomplishes nothing. I mean, I think if you take Watson, I think you needed to go with the receiver there, to be honest. I'm taking Watson in tournament teams. I'm taking him in the 18th round a lot, given the fact that with Watson, if he does pop off, then you have a league-winning player. But yeah, I think that in this specific construction, Watson's not someone I'm drafting. Okay, so let's go through. Let's get another draft going because this live stream got over 400 likes. Thank you so much for everybody going down there and dropping a like on the stream. Party Till She's Hot coming out with a donation. We'll get to that in 1 second. Let me go and get a new draft going for everybody. I'm going to be sending out a link in the live chat. Just say $5 draft here. That way we can go through and get as many of y'all in these drafts as possible. And like I said, guys, we're going to be live streaming every single night on the main fantasy football channel. So if you have not already, make sure, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. It helps us out so much. Subscribe to the channels. That's going to be the most important things, to subscribe and hit the bell, because with the amount we live stream, if you're not subscribed, this may be the only time YouTube ever recommends this live stream to you, to be completely honest. Okay, so now let's send this out. Okay, so Party Till She says, Mason, we were rooting for you. Be sure to stack and check those buys. Top Dog's robust tight end strategy threw you off. Please get some rest, Bubba. Flock strong. My man, thank you so much for coming out to the live stream. Hoping you hop in one of these with us soon. Okay, so we're at the 107. So this is actually a breath of fresh air after only having picks at the top of the draft so far this live stream. So at the 107, we're also going to be able to talk about our picks a little more often. So I am excited about that. Okay, so now let's go through. Kevin says, can you give me the $5? Kevin, I am very sorry I missed you out on that. Please shoot me a DM on Twitter tomorrow before we stream. Shoot me a DM at like 4 p.m. on Twitter tomorrow, and I'll get you a link out for the $5 to start. Jayan says, Mason roasting my running backs while his are ... Yikes. Yeah, your running back room is better than mine, my man. Your running back room is better than mine. Lightning says, sheesh, that filled before I even clicked the link. Yeah, guys, these $5 drafts, they're going to fill like this. When we do a $50, when we do a $100 draft, that's going to be a little bit slower where you're almost guaranteed to get your spot in. But these $5 drafts, they're going to fill extremely fast. But, I mean, we're live streaming every single night, so you should have more than enough chances to get into the stream. I mean, we go through, if we are looking at, we have a ton of new people out here. Reza Blade, this is new. C-Bucks, new. Boston, new. MW Holmes is new. Venetia, new. Steve the Weave is new. This is a new name. Omar, I believe he's a regular. Golf for Life is a regular. Deezenators is a regular. Yeah, so we have a lot of new people in this draft. I like getting new people in the stream. Okay, so let's get our first pick underway. So we're going to be selecting at the 107. So 4 running backs go to start this draft off. We have CMC, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Ezekiel Elliott all going to start the draft. Okay, so Davante Adams goes to the 105. So there goes our pipe dream of getting Davante Adams at the 107. So is this one of the very few teams where we have to draft Derrick Henry? I honestly might not even do it. I may not even do it. We actually drafted Derrick Henry in a live stream 2 nights ago at the 109. But, okay, Derrick Henry goes to the 106. So I'm happy to see that. And so here, to be completely honest, if this was one of those tournaments where we see the wide receivers go off the board a little early, I would probably take a Tyreek Hill. But given the fact that we are comfortable with the wide receiver value that we can get later on, we're just going to take a Travis Kelce. We're going to start this draft off like JN. So JN, my man, let's see who had the better team at the end of this. You versus me right here. We got the 107. Peyton says, when the Underdog app needs an update and shuts down your chances of hopping in this one. My man, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you did not update Underdog. But yeah, guys, your app's going to have to be updated to get in a draft. Okay, so No Chill Bill says, good to be out here and congrats on the 30,000, 50,000 subscribers. Let's go. My man, thank you so much, of course, coming out to every single live stream. Thank you, my man. I really do appreciate it. First step, 40,000. Let's get to 40,000 subscribers. What are we at currently? Well, we're going to be live streaming every single night until we get to the season. So hopefully we hit 40,000 sometime soon. Hopefully we hit 40,000 sometime soon. Yes, we're at 30.6. So we've gotten 600 in the past couple days, past week or so. So it is what it is. Okay, so Calvin Ridley at the 201. Antonio Gibson at the 202. Honestly, at this point, it's just all very standard. I mean, we don't even have anything to root for in particular when we take a Travis Kelce in the first because we're already weak at both running back and receiver. So we're kind of fine with whatever value ends up falling to us. Okay, the one player I was kind of eyeing, Jonathan Taylor, does go off the board. It would have been really nice to start off with a Travis Kelce and a Jonathan Taylor. So Hopkins goes, the other guy that I would have wanted. So now I think that we're actually going to probably take a running back here in a Joe Mixon. Now, am I going to get my Joe Mixon rant going? So with the Joe Mixon, I know he burned you last year. Don't be telling me because he burned you last year, you can't draft him this season. Because with Mixon here, last year compared to this year, 2 completely different situations. Joe Mixon this year, not playing alongside Giovanni Bernard, who's gotten close to 4 targets per game throughout his entire career. That opens up so much usage in the receiving game for Joe Mixon, which should be enough. But beyond this, he's not playing with a rookie quarterback anymore. Beyond this, he's playing with, hear me out, a better offensive line, considering the fact that it was one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL last year. And, I mean, he is just going to be getting every single touch out of that backfield. I really like Joe Mixon. I think that he could have came back and he could have played at the end of the season if it wasn't for Joe Burrow tearing his ACL. I mean, literally once Joe Burrow tore his knee up, then all of a sudden they put Joe Mixon on the IR like a week after. They went, okay, well, we're not playing for anything with Joe Burrow being out. But before that, Mixon was all reports saying he was going to come back in the middle of the season. So I know a lot of people got burned because we were waiting on Mixon, and then Joe Burrow gets hurt and the Bengals do the smart thing. They do the right thing. They shut down Joe Mixon for the rest of the year. But that should make us more excited to draft him this year, honestly. I would rather them shut him down out of precaution for the rest of the year and us be able to draft him and be safely knowing that we don't have to worry about that same injury this upcoming season. CMC says, I'm in a tournament draft on Underdog right now, and both Henry and Dalvin Cook went ahead of Christian McCaffrey. My God, my man. I can't even tell you how many drafts I've done on Underdog, and I've never seen CMC go at the 103. That is wild. That is a fantastic pick. Golf for life on the clock. He goes with Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf to start this draft off. So let's wait until I think we probably have like a 5-second buffer on the stream. I need to check what the exact lag is on the live stream. I need to figure that out. He goes to Amari Cooper. That sucks. I really wanted Amari. Okay, maybe it's just risky punting receiver in this format, especially when we're doing a live stream. It's a $5 draft, so people are kind of coming after us. Let's just take Dobbins. Let's take Dobbins. No, we're going to go with the Robert Woods. It's just so risky punting receiver in this specific format when you need to start 3 receivers. And we know that a lot of these teams, and it's going to be a massive wide receiver run that we see here. So we almost consider going Dobbins over Woods. The question we need to ask ourselves is, would we prefer the combination of DK Metcalf, J.K. Dobbins, or Joe Mixon, Robert Woods? Probably Mixon Woods, to be honest. Probably Mixon Woods. Okay, guys, Matt's saying QB and O-line questions and being drafted at his ceiling. I'm telling you right now, Joe Mixon's ceiling is Ezekiel Elliott. Joe Mixon's ceiling is, we have not come close. This isn't close to Joe Mixon's ceiling. Joe Mixon, if things broke right, could be a top 3 running back in fantasy this year. I mean, if we go through, let me pull something up. So I think a big problem that people are just viewing Joe Mixon in horrendous situations with what we have seen so far. So if we go back and if we just look at what actually happened in 2020, I mean, he was playing behind the worst offensive line in football. And then on top of that, he was playing alongside a rookie quarterback, and they were airing the ball out 40 times a game, and they weren't using him on passing downs because they had Giovanni Bernard. And if we go back the year prior to 2019, guys, with a Joe Mixon, he played on the worst team in football. He played on the team that was so bad, it got the #1 overall pick, and they were able to draft Joe Burrow. So those are 2 seasons that are going to be very hard to look at. So what I want to do with a Joe Mixon is I want to go through and let's look at 2018 with what happened, because that's the last time that we actually had Joe Mixon in a situation where, I mean, it wasn't just horrendous. And I'll say this situation he has this year is better than 2018. I'll say that for sure. Let's look up Joe Mixon 2018 stats. You know what? Let's do one better. Let's go to Joe Mixon's 2018 fantasy football finish real quick. And let's also look at where Giovanni Bernard was in terms of the usage that he had in the receiving game. And let's see, obviously you're not going to be able to just combine them and act like that's going to happen. No, of course that's not going to happen. He's not picking up every single one of those touches, but he should get a decent amount of that usage. So real quick, let's pull this up. Let's make a different draft pick though. Okay, so now if we're going to be on the clock, I think we are going to be going with another receiver here, to be honest. Because if we're going with the receiver, we can get Cooper Kupp and we can potentially look to double stack the Los Angeles Rams offense, or we can just get Darrell Henderson. Let's get Cooper Kupp here. Let's get Cooper Kupp. You have to start 3 receivers in this league. So we're going to go Mixon, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp to start off. And so let me go back and let's talk about 2018. Last time we saw Joe Mixon not in a horrendous situation. Joe Mixon in 2018, let's look at his points per game basis. Does anybody want to take a guess on what Joe Mixon finished in terms of his points per game in 2018? Now let me pull up the stats for the 2018 Cincinnati Bengals as well. That way I can kind of give you some context of what was going on in Cincinnati at the time. Okay, so this was a year that you had Andy Dalton going out there, and oh my God, I forgot how bad of a situation this was. This was 2018. Andy Dalton played 11 games. Jeff Driscoll played 5. Jeff Driscoll played 5 games this season. So Joe Mixon played with him, and he dealt with that horrendous situation. We can all agree that Joe Burrow's leaps and leaps and leaps and leaps bound over both of those quarterbacks. So the overall offense should be significantly better. And in this same season, you actually had Giovanni Bernard with 48 targets. Giovanni Bernard, 12 games played, 48 targets. So Gio was seeing 4 targets a game. On top of this, Jeff Driscoll, got in there and started 5 games for this team. So can we get a guess on where Joe Mixon finished with that horrendous situation in fantasy points per game? Because he finishes a lot better in just his overall standing, but fantasy points per game is going to be a lot better to look at. Because I think y'all would be surprised. So a lot of people are saying running back 13. So he finishes as the running back 9. So he finishes as a top 10 running back in a situation where he has a pass catching running back on the same roster, and he's playing one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Now, he is the feature running back. They're not throwing balls to Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine's not that kind of guy. Joe Mixon's going to see an Ezekiel Elliott level workload this year. I love Mixon at the 206, to be honest. I'm completely fine with Mixon. I know people are scared based on what happened last year, but this is just a way, way, way better situation, to be honest. Okay, someone's saying Najee Harris over Joe Mixon. No, not at all. Not at all. I think it's the perfect example to look at a Najee Harris and a Joe Mixon. Y'all want to know something crazy? This is off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. I'm going to have to double check this. But I believe Joe Mixon's like 18 months older than Najee Harris. Let me look up their exact birthdays, but they're very close in age, which is the craziest thing that you are ever going to hear. And you actually have a better offensive line in Cincinnati compared to Pittsburgh, and you have a better overall offensive environment with Joe Burrow compared to Ben Roethlisberger. And they're both projecting to see almost every touch in their offense. It's Joe Mixon over Najee Harris, and it's not close either. It's not close. Okay. So let's see where Golf for Life ends up going. Sucks that we have ETN, Miles Sanders. He goes Claypool. So now we are stuck in the definition of no man's land. And this is what we talked about earlier in the stream, where here I literally can't look at a tight end when we have Kelsey on this roster. So I don't want to be looking at either Kyler or Lamar without a potential stack. So then we continue to get receiver. We're probably going to go with an Odell Beckham Jr. here. And it sucks. Like, you're in the dead range, where I told some other teams earlier in this live stream that drafted Odell. I'm like, it sucks to be you, but you couldn't really do anything else. That was our scenario here. Maybe the only thing we could have done is instead of drafting Kupp, draft a running back. But yeah, going over, guys, why are you... Let me know if you really think Najee Harris is better than Joe Mixon for fantasy this year. Let me know your reasoning on that. Let me look up their ages. And I know this isn't everything, but I just trying to put everything into context here. So Joe Mixon turned 25 last month. He turned 25 last month. He was born July 24th, 1996. So Harris turned 23 back in March. So yeah, it's about an 18-month difference between the two players, which is just ridiculous to think about. Matthew says, does your rankings have a full PPR rankings or just standard? My rankings are PPR, my man. Everything I do is based on full PPR, except when we're doing these underdog drafts where they're going to be half PPR. Noah says, Burrow really isn't that good. He had mid-level arm talent in the NFL. Do you realize Joe Burrow was a rookie last year? Joe Burrow is going to be significantly better this year than he was last year. That is a reckless thing to say. That is a reckless thing to say about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is significantly better than what you actually have with the Ben Roethlisberger at this point. I'm not saying Joe Burrow is going to have a better NFL career, but 2021 talent, if you're going to try to tell me Ben Roethlisberger over Joe Burrow, you may get hit with a ban from the live stream, to be honest. That is just reckless. Now, Kyle Pitts falling all the way to the 604. I think this is actually where Kyle Pitts should be going in drafts. I think he should be going in the 6th round behind Hawkinson and Andrews. Now, this pisses me off. Kareem Hunt drafted at the 605. I'm not taking Sermon. I'm not taking Gaskin. I'm not taking Edmonds. We're having to draft another receiver here. We're going to take a Kenny Golladay when none of these quarterbacks have the potential to stack with our current players. Let's get our wide receiver 4 here. Just hunting those spike weeks. Yeah, this is a gross draft so far. Jay, and I may owe you an apology. Because I know you didn't have a good draft at the 107. I know you said differently. I didn't necessarily think you did. But here, I think we messed up this draft. And maybe something we could have done is if we would have instead of gone with a Tyreek Hill over a Travis Kelce in the first, then we could have gone with a TJ Hawkinson or a Mark Andrews in the fifth. So I think that's maybe a mistake that we made. I think Kelce in the first maybe just kind of threw this team off from the jump. Lucas says Mason will take Hunt if he's still there. Yeah, usually, guys, in those tournaments, I'm getting Kareem Hunt in the middle of the sixth every single time. I mean, it sucks to see that he doesn't fall here in this draft. Okay. Please, guys, I want to hear your other side. So I laid out my argument for why I prefer Joe Mixon over Najee Harris. And then I think they are very similar running backs if you look at their overall profiles. And at the same time, I think that literally the offensive line for Pittsburgh is going to be bottom 3 in the NFL this year. It got decimated this offseason. So I think Cincinnati, who had small improvements, still a bad offensive line, but a better offensive line than Pittsburgh. That is something you can get excited about with Mixon. And in the case of a Joe Mixon versus a Najee Harris, the overall offensive environment with the Joe Burrow is going to be significantly better. I don't know what the argument is here. The Bengals are going to run more plays. The Bengals are going to have more trips to the red zone. So are you really thinking that Najee Harris is just that much better of a running back? We know that Joe Mixon's talented. That's not in question whatsoever. We know how talented Joe Mixon is. Charles says, who's getting injured first, though? Big Ben or Joe Burrow? Literally, I think that if you were confident in your ability to predict an injury from either one of those two quarterbacks over the other, that is getting extremely reckless with your ability to go through and try to do that. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger with a significant elbow surgery just 18 months ago. I mean, obviously the arm fell apart at the end of last year. That was a team that was like undefeated through the first 9-10 weeks of the season. And then the arm falls apart, the same arm that he had surgery on, his throwing arm. And you're going to try to tell me that Joe Burrow is a much more likely quarterback to see an injury risk? I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it for a second. Okay. So now that we are on the clock, do we have to take Myles Gaskin here? Y'all know how much I've hated Myles Gaskin all offseason. I also hate Damian Harris. I also hate Raheem Mostert. So if we're going to have to take a running back sometime soon, it may have to be Gaskin. We're not getting Robinson or A.J. Dillon in the 9th round. Y'all know I've very rarely taken Myles Gaskin. I've been saying that people were way too reckless with their prediction to be able to go through and just give him the volume that they initially want to say that he's going to be the starting running back for Miami all year, which we simply don't know. So when he was going in the 4th, 5th round, I was never touching him. But if he's falling to the middle of the 7th and we only have one running back on this team, we possibly have to go with a Myles Gaskin. Ryan says, Joe Mixon has never returned a second round value in 4 years. I literally just went through and showed you that he was a top 10 running back in 2018. So I know you sent some more stuff after that message, but I'm not going to continue to read it because that was just factually false. If I draft a running back in the 2nd round that's a top 10 running back, that's returning value. That's returning value. Okay, so Justin Herbert at the 7-11. I hate this team. I hate this team so much. At receiver, the problem is we're not even strong at receiver either. That's why I've been drafting so much ETN, Miles Sanders. I mean, if we look at this round right here in the 5th, that's why I've been drafting so much of these players, is because the wide receivers that you have in this round, they're horrendous. The problem is what we could have potentially done is just take a Lamar Jackson at the 507 and said, who cares? I can figure out. That's what we should have done. I am so dumb. And then we should have just taken a Lamar for the rushing capability. That was a very bad pick by me of an Odell Beckham Jr. Lamar Jackson should have been our pick there. Lamar Jackson should have been our pick. Dylan says, I understand your reasoning for Davante Adams at the 103, but I just can't get behind it. That's completely fine, my man. I'm not saying that anybody's stupid for not agreeing with me. I think Davante Adams actually in the same tier as about 6 other players in that range. So if you want to argue for an Alvin Kamara, I'm fine with it, to be honest. Yeah, I'll say, guys, when we take Myles Gaskin here, I mean, you have Miami with one of the worst offensive lines in football. Miami is, talking about bad offensive lines, Miami's going to be disgusting this year. So I've hated Myles Gaskin for a very long time. Chase Edmonds has been someone I've been screaming we want over him, which was funny when Edmonds was going 2 rounds behind him. But now that I have to watch Edmonds go over him in a real draft, it sucks. It sucks, definitely. Jack says, Mason, did you get the 101 in this stream yet? No, sir. I have not gotten the 101. Sadly, I got the 101 in a draft that I was doing earlier today, not on the live stream, but not on the stream. So Waddle goes, I think we possibly take a receiver knowing that we can get some running backs that we like in round 9. I mean, the running backs are going to kind of be similar to us here, where I think the receivers are about to see a fall off. Quarterbacks aren't going to be in play for me in this round. So let's get a Jarvis Landry. I mean, just coming in, someone that we know is going to get targets every single week. Looks like we probably are going to have to end up drafting Baker Mayfield with this team, though, once we do stack both Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis. I felt uncomfortable this entire draft. The last draft we did, we crushed. But this draft is just... I feel like we've been in no man's land every single round. Literally, the last round that I thought that we had a clear selection, I don't think we've had a clear pick to make in this entire draft so far. Kelsey, we had the argument Kelsey versus Hill. Mixon, we had the argument Mixon versus Metcalf. Here we had the argument Woods versus Dobbins. Here we had the argument Cooper Kupp versus Darrell Henderson. Here it could have been Odell or Lamar. Here it could have been Kenny Golladay, or actually Kenny G was pretty much the only pick we could have gone, which sucked. Then Myles Gaskin, only pick we could have gone, which sucked. But yeah, this has been a horrendous draft for so many reasons. Teresa says you got sniped on Hunt and Edmonds. Yes. I feel like we've been getting sniped this entire draft. We got sniped on Claypool as well. We got sniped on Carson. We got sniped on Amari. Got sniped on Hopkins and Taylor. This has been a tough draft to navigate. Okay, Curtis Samuel, Corey Davis. Oh, yeah, and going back to the Joe Mixon situation, Jay Buck brings in a very good argument here. I know it doesn't necessarily seem intuitive for a lot of people that aren't super in the weeds with fantasy football, but bringing in Jamar Chase does help Joe Mixon. You can make an argument that Penny Sewell maybe would have been better, but regardless, either player significantly helps the situation that we're going to have in Cincinnati and what you have with Joe Mixon. And that with Mixon now, he's just playing in an offense that we know is going to be so much more efficient with the addition of that vertical field stretcher, where opposing defenses aren't going to be able to stack the box nearly as much as they would previously when it was AJ Green and T. Higgins. So yeah, T. Higgins going into year 2, adding Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow going into year 2, a better offensive line, removing Giovanni Bernard from the situation. It's a prime year for Joe Mixon. It's a prime year for Mixon. Okay, so Jalen Hurts in the 902. Michael Thomas goes at the 903. Michael Thomas is so hard to evaluate in this format just because we know that, I mean, you're going to be missing out on his score for the first, just say, 4 weeks of the year, and that's going to be detrimental in a best ball league like this. Guys, if you have not gone down there and dropped a like on the live stream yet, make sure you drop a like. But more importantly, if you are enjoying this live stream, we live stream every single night. And if YouTube recommended this to you and you have not subscribed to the channel, I mean, there's a chance that you never see this live stream again because they never recommend it to you. So make sure you hit that sub button. And if you want to come out to the beginning of the live streams and get out in the drafts with us early on, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That's going to be very important. Okay, so Steve the Weave about to be on the clock. See, this is the problem. This is why we should have gone with Lamar, because when Hollywood Brown's falling in this range, I mean, having a Lamar Jackson on this team would have been perfect for going out there and getting Hollywood to come in. So thank God. Prayers up. We get him. We get him. Let's bring him in. Welcome home, Zach Moss. We needed another running back. We needed someone playing in a good offense. We need someone that's going to have a role every single week. Getting Zach Moss here, I think he's going to be someone with a very high win rate in leagues like this. Thank God we got Zach Moss. That would have been ugly if we didn't get Zach Moss. I mean, it was the literal reason why I decided to pass on a running back in round 8 and get a Jarvis Landry instead is because in my mind, I went, we'll either get Ronald Jones or Zach Moss in round 9. And then once we had Ronald Jones go here, I was terrified deep down inside. I mean, I thought there was a chance we were getting nobody. A Diamond says, Mason, did you like what you saw from Ramondre Stevenson tonight in the Eagles game? Personally, I'm a very big fan of him. Okay, so I'll say I literally been a fan of Rodgers Stevenson for a very long time. I have the videos out to prove it. And I'll also say that I started this live stream before Rodgers Stevenson was actually out there playing. So I did not get the chance to go through and watch Rodgers Stevenson yet tonight. You better believe I'm going to be watching some videos after the live stream. More importantly, I'm going to be going through and tracking the snaps with where we actually had those players and what actually matters in fantasy. So it's fun to go through and it's fun to say, oh, who looked electric, who looked like they were a fantastic talent. But more so, I want to see the usage of the players. I'm definitely going to have to do that. Probably not tonight, because tonight I'm going to be sending out all those draft guides for everybody who used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. So probably not tonight, but tomorrow morning, definitely. Okay, so now we have some more receivers going off. We have actually, let's check out some of these teams real quick, because we have some new people in this live stream. I love this team here from REZ Blade. Going Barkley, Calvin Ridley, Montgomery, DJ Moore, getting a very balanced start. Getting this Baltimore stack. I mean, this Baltimore stack was literally going at the 2-3 turn in last year's drafts. I mean, that was Lamar Jackson. You had to take at the end of the second. You had to take Mark Andrews at the beginning of the third. Getting them there is going to be a massive value. Now, we are about to be on the clock, so let's go through and let's make sure that we are getting our own pick in. So I know a lot of people are probably going to be looking at us and taking... You know what? We have to do it. We're going to get Matthew Stafford here. We're going to get Matthew Stafford. We've already taken Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp on this team. So if this team's going to be any good anyway, we kind of have to have Matthew Stafford kind of smash in fantasy. So yeah, we're going to take Stafford and we'll probably go out there and get a Baker Mayfield later on. But let's go back to this 112 team, because this is, I believe, a new person in the live stream. And I really want to focus in on this. And then after going through and getting the potential elite quarterback tight end pairing, and they already have the guaranteed touches at running back, they're just slamming in high upside receivers here. I really like that construction so far. Okay, so let's go through. And the Playmaker says, where do you find those snap counts from the preseason? Just wondering. My man, I wish there was just one site that had them all listed out. I have to go through and I have to like do research a game by game, and I'll be like looking at some Washington fan post blog, like whatever. They love the Washington football team, so they're going through, they're doing it. So I'm having to write it down and keep everything on the same sheet. I haven't found a good source, at least a good free source for that snap count data yet in the preseason. If y'all have that has all the games, I can find little articles here or there that have like half the game. So I'm more so going through, just searching it, finding a bunch of different articles, then piecing it together for all the snap counts. And because you can't just look at the snap counts for the overall games, you also have to track it for the first team offense, the second team offense, for the third team offense. So that's where it gets a little dicey, and also trying to figure out when they were in there, if it was a player that got in there on third down, like Giovanni Bernard in the Tampa Bay Bucks game. So yeah, it's hard work. It's definitely a lot of research. It's not as simple as just going, oh, go to www.blah, blah, blah. Aaron says, do you sleep or go out? To be completely honest, I sleep probably about 5 hours a night, and I do not go out whatsoever. Like, that's why I've told a lot of people like that want me to do vlogs and stuff, like, oh, vlog your regular life. People like to go through and see it. It'll build a brand. I'm like, literally my regular life is I sit here and I do fantasy football I already vlog my regular life and live streaming every single night, because this is what I do every single night. It's just fantasy football, fantasy football, fantasy football, fantasy football, and some more fantasy. I'm working. Obviously, it's not actual work, but I'm just either playing. I'm in a fantasy football draft, making a podcast, making a video, doing research in a live stream. 16 hours a day. Probably not 16, because I go to the gym. The one thing I do is go to the gym. So, and take the dog to the dog park, which is right next to my apartment. So I probably do fantasy football 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day, something like that. 7 days a week as well. 7 days a week for months and months at a time. Okay, so when we only have 3 running backs and 2 of them are Myles Gaskin, Zach Moss, we are kind of hoping that we get some more running backs falling back to us, to be honest. So, hey, seeing like a Kenyon Drake, a Gus Edwards here, it sucks. It sucks. We pull this up. Now, Steve the Weave looks like he probably should not be taking a running back here. I mean, he has Najee, Darrell Henderson, James Robinson, Ronald Jones, but who knows? Players like to come out. They like to target us. We'll see. Steven says, how do you maintain a girlfriend with a current lifestyle? My man, my girlfriend lives in a different state as me currently. I currently live in Tampa, and I'm not going to disclose her location, but so it is what it is. Lazy One says, you still go to school? ? No, my man, I do not go to school. I graduated last semester. Okay, so now we get Tony Pollard. Okay, this is kind of what we needed on this team. We needed, you know what? We could potentially take Fournette here. So with the Tony Pollard, he just has way more upside. But with the Fournette, I think we could get more usable weeks out of him. It's like, do we need usable weeks at this point or do we need upside? We're going to take a Tony Pollard. I'll explain it a little bit more later on. We're going to take a Pollard there. That is something that if you have a strong opinion on, I would really like to hear your opinion on with this build that I've had so far. What do you think is a better selection between a Fournette or a Tony Pollard? We had to go running back. I don't know what the correct answer was. So if you have a strong opinion on that, I truly don't know what the correct answer is there between a Tony Pollard and a Leonard Fournette. Like in a vacuum, I definitely have Tony Pollard way higher in my rankings. It's just we're desperate for running back touches in a best ball format. I think we're going to get few usable weeks out of Tony Pollard unless we do see an Ezekiel Elliott injury. Where Leonard Fournette, we could get random weeks popping up, but at the same time, we don't have the same type of upside with the Leonard Fournette with the addition of Giovanni Bernard. Okay, also, guys, if you are just now joining the live stream, let me fill you in on what we are doing right now. First off, let's show you the top of the draft board, then we can come back down. So we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. This is where I'm drafting all day, every single day. And what is fantastic with Underdog Fantasy is we have partnered with them. And this has been the best thing that has ever happened to this channel. And that they have agreed to sponsor our 2021 draft guide. So when you make a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you actually get our 2021 draft guide, our 2021 rankings, our 2021 tiers, our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, hundreds of pages of information, and they add $25 to your account when you use promo code FLOCK. And I'll say, if we hit 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy, then we actually get to fly people down to Tampa, Florida to go to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me that use promo code FLOCK. Obviously not everybody. That would be ridiculous, but we are doing that through a giveaway, and we're going to do a Florida Flock meetup afterwards. So it'll be a ton of fun. Really hoping we can do that. And here, I think we just take a receiver that's going to be on the field a lot. I've been drafting him a lot, and I know people don't like me for it, but we're going to be taking Beasley. Yes, it's a concern with how many games we get from him this year, but at the end of the day, he's playing in an offense that's going to throw the ball a ton, and he's going to be running a lot of routes. So yeah, we're going to take a Cole Beasley there at the 1206. Kind of does suck that we had a Jamal Williams and a Devin Singletary go here at the end of the 11th. One reason why I went with a Tony Pollard over a Leonard Fournette is the fact that we actually thought that there was a small chance we could get either one of Devin Singletary or Jamal Williams falling to us in the 12th. And if that were to occur, I think the floor that we needed from our running back would have been less. So it does suck. It does suck missing out on both those guys. And I see someone in the chat. Okay, so Mr. Hagman says, I'd say Leonard Fournette, he's more likely than Tony Pollard to get 10 plus touches a game. I think you're right. I think now that we see Devin Singletary, Jamal Williams go off the board and we have to take Cole Beasley there, I think you're right in that the correct call probably would have been a Tony Pollard. And honestly, probably the correct call of me instead of drafting a Cole Beasley would have been an Nyheim Hines. Like, if y'all want to know how not to draft a team on Underdog Fantasy, you need to make sure you save this stream to watch later. Skip to the 4th draft of our stream, because the first 3 drafts I think we actually crushed, especially that last draft. I think we did a fantastic job. But this one, we have been... Maybe I just need to get more comfortable drafting Travis Kelce in the first, because let's go through this again. It's been so bad. It's been tough like every round. Kelce, Mixon, Woods, Kupp, Odell, Kenny Golladay, Myles Gaskin, Jarvis, Zach Moss. The only positive is we complete the double stack with Matthew Stafford, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. So we could say if Matthew Stafford does come out, he's top 5 in the NFL in passing yards, then this team crushes. But that's a tall ask. So really, I think the only path for this team to be extremely competitive is if we have LA just completely blow up and an Ezekiel Elliott injury. If that happens, then we're probably the best team in the league. But that's a tall ask. Like, that's a low probability odds that both of those happen. Okay, so Al says, will Sanders take more receptions from Beasley, or am I giving Sanders too much credit? I'll say that Emmanuel Sanders definitely is going to take receptions, but keep in mind, John Brown's also leaving the offense. I'm not sure that Emmanuel Sanders is getting that much more than John Brown left behind. And also, you actually have Emmanuel Sanders at 34 years old. We don't know if he makes it through the entire year. So I am personally a lot lower on Emmanuel Sanders than most people are. And it's more so, you see the Buffalo Bills just run a ton of 4 wide receiver sets. So they're going to have Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley on the field together a lot. I mean, if you just think about the personnel of that team, they have to be running a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. So now after this, I'm trying to figure something out. So now that Matt Ryan goes, it's I just gave away the pick. The problem is I shouldn't have opened my mouth. The thing is, when we take both an Odell and a Jarvis Landry, and I hate reaching for stacks. You all know I'm the first person to always talk about stacks, but we're always looking to draft the quarterbacks at a value that complete the receiver picks that we made earlier on. This does not do that. This we are reaching at the 1307. I do not like Baker Mayfield. If Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan didn't go here beforehand, we would have not drafted Baker. But a problem is if you look at the teams that are behind us, we have multiple teams with only one quarterback. Viniza, whatever the hell their name is, Reezy Blade, only one quarterback. Boston, only one quarterback. So they had so many picks between us where they could have ended up taking Baker, and he was near the top of the ADP. So when we drafted Odell and when we drafted Jarvis Landry on the same team, we kind of pigeonhole this roster into having to have Baker Mayfield on it. So I don't like it, but it is what it is. I mean, it's our fault for messing up the draft at the beginning. Really, the only shot at upside for this roster now is taking Baker Mayfield at the 1307. Golf for Life says, thoughts on my team at the 107. My man, you are at the 106, but I will go through and I will check that out. Let me get my next pick on, though. And we passed 450 likes on this live stream. Thank you, everybody, going down there and dropping a like on the stream. It helps us out so much. Like I say, Tua Tagovailoa goes at the 13-12. And see, this is the problem, because once you have Tua go off the board, then Baker Mayfield would have had to make it back through 5 more picks. And both of this team and this roster, they only have one quarterback. And this one in particular only has Ryan Tannehill. So it's not completely out of the question for him to end up drafting a Baker Mayfield. So yeah, we're going to take Baker there. We're going to have to draft 6 running backs on this team. So we're only going to draft 2 quarterbacks, considering that we're already so invested in those 2 offenses. They kind of have to pan out. We're only drafting 2 tight ends since we have Travis Kelce. We need 6 running backs and 8 receivers on this roster. Okay, so we need 2 more of each position. We're only running back and receiver, so from now on, yeah, and receiver is just so much a better value at this point. We're probably going to have to go receiver. After all these running backs get soaked up, really there's no reason for me to, I'm not going to be able to, reaching on a Xavier Jones, a Giovanni Bernard, a James White, a Malcolm Brown, that is nothing for me here. We're going to have another running back available to us like that in the 15th. So let's just take Jalen Reagor. Not a massive fan of Jalen Reagor, but keep in mind, I'm going to be doing 200 of these drafts. And if Jalen Reagor is falling to us at the middle of the 14th, when he has an ADP at 140, like we're drafting him at 162 right now. I mean, if he's going to fall 22 picks in his ADP, we kind of have to take him somewhere. So might as well be this draft. So yeah, let's go through. Let's take a Jalen Reagor at the 1406. A T.Y. Hilton, honestly, probably someone that I prefer in a vacuum, but we also have drafted way more T.Y. Hilton than we have had Jalen Reagor. Okay, so let's go through. Let's check out Golf for Life's 106 real quick. So at the 106, to start us off, he went Derrick Henry. Then I think he did a significantly better job than us. I'm not going to try to talk down on it, though. I think you had a lot more decisions that were easy, like DK Metcalf versus Harris. That's easily Metcalf. Amari Cooper, pretty easy pick. Tyler Lockett, great value. Chase Claypool, great value. Yeah, so I think there were a lot of picks here that made sense. You get the double stack with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. Chase Edmonds at the 706 is just absurd value. I mean, I would be so excited about my own draft if we got Chase Edmonds at the 707. Then Logan Thomas at the 807. Maybe a little rich on a Logan Thomas when you could have had a James Robinson and A.J. Dillon and Damian Harris. Hollywood Brown, really like the Hollywood value. Really love the Devontae Parker value. Latavius, Nyheim Hines. See, the problem is going back to this round right here. Who do you prefer between your favorite guy, between A.J. Dillon and James Robinson? So just say it James Robinson because he went before A.J. Dillon in this draft. Do you prefer James Robinson and Jonnu Smith or Logan Thomas, Nyheim Hines? I'm a massive fan of Logan Thomas, but I think we probably prefer James Robinson. Because if Travis Etienne went down, he does have top 10 running back upside. Now beyond this, Matt Ryan, T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, so I really like that draft so far. I think there are a lot of things that we do. Balin says, me personally, the gap between Kelce and Waller is so small, I would have gone Hill at the 107 and Waller at the 207. I think I have a pretty big gap between the two guys, to be honest. I have a pretty big gap. What the hell was this? Do y'all see that right now? Do y'all see that at the 15:03? That is very surprising. Okay, so y'all see whenever we're on the board, we take Jalen Reagor. We said all the running backs were the same to us. Only one goes off the board, so it's not a big deal. So let's switch this back over. So the 15:07 here, we're either looking running back, receiver. So if we're going receiver, the thing is we can't take Malcolm Brown in this roster because we already made the bet with a Myles Gaskin. I do like a Paris Campbell, especially when it sounds like you're going to have Carson Wentz back earlier than expected. But the problem is now there is going to be a pretty far drop-off after these running backs. So then we actually do have to take Xavier Jones in the 15th round. Not a massive fan of Xavier Jones. But we need 6 running backs on this team. We need it. I mean, I messed up this draft at the beginning. So we're putting out the fires right now. That's what we're doing. We're not doing a great job of it, but we're doing what we can. I mean, like, this is what happened with this team so far. I walked into a farmhouse, poured a bunch of gasoline on it through the first 5 rounds. And the round 6, 7, 8, I went through and I took a lighter, threw it on the gasoline. The house just lit on fire, just a massive bonfire. And then in these last rounds, I have like a little tiny pail, like a little tiny lunch pail. And I have a pond that's 100 yards away. And I'm having to run to that pond as fast as I can, fill up the lunch pail, and then run back to the barn and throw it back on the barn as if I'm doing anything, trying to save it. Because I think it's probably not savable. Like, I probably ruined this to a point of no return. But got to do our best. Because, another thing is we need another tight end on this team as well. We need another tight end. Okay, so let's switch this back over real quick. Okay, so at tight end, I guess we could take one of these guys if they fall. Like, we could. Okay, Hunter Henry goes. So we can't take Henry. We have to make sure we're checking the bye week. I will say Kansas City does have a nice bye. Like in week 12, not many other teams overlap that Kansas City Chiefs bye. Okay, so we're just, I guess we're just running back, wide receiver, tight end. So Malcolm Brown goes. It would have been interesting if we were just trying to get some guaranteed touches at the running back position to take Brown and Myles Gaskin. If we were doing it at a nothing price, it would have been slightly interesting. Slightly interesting. Okay. PinQ says, "Are you doing another draft?" This is our 4th draft of the night, so I was not planning on it. Probably not. If this stream gets over, and I'm saying a number right now that I know it's not going to get over, so I know I'm being an ass when I say this, but it's for a reason. If this stream gets over 550 likes, we'll do another draft tonight, but it's not getting over 550 likes. Okay, so Carson Wentz at the 1603. Thank God we do not want any of these quarterbacks. And I'm not taking Salvin Ahmad, guys. I'm not taking Salvin Ahmad. James White goes, and that sucks so bad. So bad, so bad, so bad. James White would have been a clear running back that would have helped out this team so much with a weekly role. I hate to see James White go off the board. So when we have a Kelsey on this roster as well, I mean, I guess we do have some upside having the double stack with Bo Stafford and our other guy, Austin Hooper, goes, "Are you kidding me? We were going to get Austin Hooper to go with Baker Mayfield as well as our second tight end alongside Travis Kelce." Not the end of the world. We're just going to take a Brashad Perriman because that receiver, we are so weak at receiver as well. Literally the only position we're strong at in this draft is tight end. The only position. We have a decent projection so far through 16 rounds, especially for only a 2-quarterback build, which is surprising. I mean, what are we kind of missing here? We have Woods, Kupp, Odell, Kenny Golladay, Jarvis, Beasley, Rager, Brashad Perriman, Travis Kelce. Really, the only running back I like is Joe Mixon. These running backs are garbage. Some quarterbacks to get the double stacks in. But yeah, dear Lord. We need a... I'm probably going to delete this live stream after it, to be completely honest. I'm probably going to delete this live stream. Thomas, be quiet. Be quiet, Thomas. Thomas, five down. Okay. Let's scroll back up real quick. Let's scroll back up. Okay, so after we take Rashad Perriman, now we're done at receiver. We're only going running back and tight end after this. We need one more tight end, even with the Travis Kelce build. I mean, obviously you need a second tight end in a league. KD says, longtime lurker, definitely love the Underdog Best Ball Leagues. However, have you made a video on 2 quarterbacks slash Superflex, standard or PPR? Would love to hear your opinion on that draft strategy. My man, I literally all offseason exclusively played in Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. So with Dynasty Fantasy Football, I mean, all I do is Superflex. So yeah, I've talked a lot about Superflex. When it comes to redraft, I'm not going to be doing it as much just because most people play redraft in 1 quarterback formats. So yeah, I've talked a lot of Superflex, but mainly for Dynasty. Michael coming out with a donation says, love the grind, man. What are your thoughts at the 109? Thank you, my man, for the donation. I'll look at the 109 as soon as we get done with our 17th round selection. And I'm checking my exposures right now for certain players. Can anybody take a guess on who my highest drafted tight end is? I'm telling you, there's a 0% chance that you get this correct. Can anybody in this chat take a guess on who my highest drafted tight end is? It's someone that I don't even talk about a lot. Like the reason I'm saying there's a 0% chance you get it correct is I am beyond surprised that this is my highest drafted tight end. Okay, Nick says, Mason, what is your favorite workout in the gym? My favorite thing to do in the gym, I used to be on the University of Texas powerlifting team. My favorite thing to do is deadlift. I love deadlift. I actually pulled 465 when I weighed like 160 pounds. And obviously you look at me and you know I'm not on anything. I'm completely natural. The most I was on was caffeine and some beta-alanine. Okay, so Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper is up there. Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki, Logan Thomas, Adam Troutman, Johnny Smith, Eric Ebron, Cole Kmet, Kyle Pitts. Not a single one of y'all have guessed. Zach gets it right. Zach guessed Anthony Firkser. I have no idea. I can't even say his name correctly. Anthony Firkser is actually our highest drafted tight end so far. We have him in, it doesn't matter how you cut it. We have him in 17% of the leagues that we have drafted. So that's twice over expectation with what you would have from a regular player. Yeah, so a lot of people got it right. It's Anthony Firkser. And we have him in 17% of leagues, and I have him in $605 worth of buy-ins. Like if we look at all our players in terms of my buy-in entries, the most I've invested into is actually Anthony Firkser. That's the craziest thing ever. So here we're just wide receiver tight end. We're just going to get a Blake Jarwin because all the other wide receivers are the exact same. And Pat Frymuth getting snaps in Pittsburgh absolutely kills Eric Ebron for me. So we're going to go Blake Jarwin. I would have just drafted Eric Ebron if it was earlier on. But let's switch this over. And I didn't even know I was high on Anthony Firkser, guys. I think it's more so just him falling in these drafts. I don't know. But I guess maybe we're high on him. I guess. But let me go through and let's check out the 106. We're checking out Golf for Life, I believe. No, 109. I'm sorry. The 109 for MW Holmes. So Michael Holmes here. Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor. I was pissed that you took Jonathan Taylor from us. I was really hoping he was coming back. Mike Evans. I'll say, personally, I'm not a fan of Evans. I am completely fine with you going receiver there. I personally would have gone with the receiver as well. I think we probably would have, instead of taking Evans, though, we would have gone with the Chris Godwin. I know 99% of people prefer Evans over Godwin. I don't. Mahomes at the 404. Not in love with it when you could have had Cooper Kupp when you don't have a Kansas City stack. But obviously, that's good value from Mahomes. Robbie Anderson, I like it. Kyle Pitts. Not a big fan of Kyle Pitts, but it's great value. Tyler Boyd, Brandon Cooks, Trey Lance. This Trey Lance pick is really, really bad. I think that when you drafted Patrick Mahomes where you did at the 404, you're already so tied up into Mahomes being the quarterback 1 or 2 overall that what does Trey Lance here do for you? You can't trade him. So while I love Trey Lance, nobody's higher on Trey Lance than I am. The 909 just makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense to draft him here. Just get another receiver, get a Noah Fant, just anybody else but Lance. I like the James Conner. I like the trio of receivers. David Johnson, I've said that he is the one player. I mean, I would draft him in the 14th round. He has to fall to the 14th for me to consider drafting him. Jared Cook, James White, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I like the James White pick. Yeah, so the one problem I have with this draft is I agree. I think you only want to draft 2 quarterbacks when you draft the Mahomes. But if you get a Mahomes at the 404, I'm not drafting another QB until like this range. I'm not drafting another guy until like the Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield tier. Okay, so let's pull this back up. I think we're going receiver, right? Yeah, so we have 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 8 receivers, and 2 tight ends. I mean, it's 5 running backs. We only have 5 running backs. So no, we're going running back actually. I am so dumb. I thought we were going with a receiver with our last round pick. We need a running back. I would have taken Ramondre Stevenson over Blake Jarwin. I thought we were done at running back. Ending this draft how we started as a dumbass. Oh my God, this was a horrendous pick. If I said anything bad about any picks that you made in this draft, I apologize because I had the worst team in this league and it's not even remotely close. I mean, y'all crushed me. Okay, so Zach yelling one more draft. Guys, it's about to be midnight where I'm at. It looks like we're not getting there. It is what it is. I really do want to give everyone a massive thank you for coming out to the stream, though. And we are going to be doing a live stream with drafts every single night leading up until the season. So, of course, thank you so much for everybody coming out. I think we already showed y'all the entire draft board. So what I'm going to do right now is let me go and get y'all a link to our free fantasy football group chat. This is a link where you don't need to go through and sign up with an email. You don't need a credit card. You don't need anything like that. Literally, you just click the link, choose a nickname. You're in the group chat. It is that simple. And also, guys, I will say that if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, shoot me a DM on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord, wherever. I'm sending out all those draft guides right now. I'll be up for the next couple hours doing it. So yeah, that's all I got for you, my dudes. Thank you for coming out, and I'll see y'all tomorrow night.